Chapter 217 Chapter 217, Yun Xiaoling's Shock. Chapter 217 Yun Xiaoling's Shock. Li Lingtian did not care about what was happening outside. Since it had already happened, he couldn't regret it. Besides, he had been in Maple Leaf Manor for so long and had developed feelings for it. Naturally, he wouldn't let Maple Leaf Manor disappear just like that. Moreover, the people of the three great clans were too arrogant. They actually wanted to punish him. If they wanted to punish him, then so be it, but they shouldn't go too far. He didn't want to be arrogant. He just wanted to keep a low profile and cultivate. However, when he encountered something, he couldn't keep a low profile anymore. Being too low-key was not the life he wanted. Being too low-key was cowardice. In fact, he had long known that his life would not be peaceful. However, he did not expect it to come so soon. He thought that after he became a martial king, he would go out and look for these 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs. At that time, he would refine the illusion god pill in one fell swoop and become an alchemist, restoring his martial arts grandmaster realm. The Zhou family, Mu family, and Ling family were unlucky to have met him. As long as it wasn't too much, he wouldn't do anything to destroy his sect. During this period of time, he had learned that there were countless martial monarchs in the soliciting Moon Mountains. There might even be martial honors. Although he wasn't sure, he couldn't ignore it. If it was a martial emperor, he wouldn't have to do anything. The silver-wing flying dragon and the others could also take care of it. He only needed to cultivate and recover his cultivation in peace. During this period of time, although his cultivation had not recovered, he had improved all kinds of skills. This was also a blessing in disguise. If not for this disaster, his cultivation would have risen sharply, but he had neglected the power of the skill. In this world, there were gains and losses. His cultivation speed was extremely fast, but he had always missed out on some things. These things could only be slowly polished over time. Refining and nourishing treasures, reviewing cultivation skills, and calmly comprehending cultivation techniques were all things that could only be honed over time. Now he had one more chance to suppress his cultivation, but he was slowly finding back what he had missed in the past. After all, he was only a 17 or 18-year-old youth. In just 3 or 4 years, he had experienced things that an old monster would not be able to experience in a few hundred years. In the room, he threw a peerless second-grade spirit-binding pill into his mouth and immediately began to cultivate. No matter when, he had to recover his cultivation and cultivate continuously. On the path of cultivation, only by maintaining diligent cultivation could one's cultivation advance. Seconds passed by. The heaven and earth reincarnation art in his body started to circulate. It digested the pill and quickly transformed the medicinal strength of the pill into true qi, which finally flowed into his dantian. Shua Tier 3 Warrior Spirit, I've recovered. 20 minutes later, he had completed a large circulation. He was originally a Tier 2 Warrior Spirit, but after a great battle and the addition of this pill, he had recovered to Tier 3 Warrior Spirit in one fell swoop. The true qi in his body had become even denser. Li Lingtian found it strange because the density of the true qi was no different from that of the true essence. It was somewhere between the two. However, he quickly understood that he was a Wu Zong, and his body was also filled with true essence. It was just that his cultivation realm had fallen, so there was still a trace of true essence left in his body. In addition, his skills had not been crippled, which supported the density of his true energy. In this way, martial artists who used true energy were naturally useless in front of him. Come in. After tidying himself up, Li Lingtian called out to him. He had known that someone was coming from outside when he was cultivating, but he did not dare to disturb him when he realized that he was cultivating. When a warrior cultivated, as long as they had reached the martial king realm, they could feel a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation in the space. As long as there was a fluctuation of spiritual energy, it meant that someone was circulating or cultivating. Li Lingtian was the only one in the place, so he was naturally cultivating. Greetings, Senior. Junior had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Senior, please forgive me. Yun Xiaoling walked in and bowed respectfully like a junior. His expression was extremely respectful, just like an obedient baby. Yun Yaoyao also bowed gracefully. As such, Li Lingtian was taken aback. He immediately laughed loudly. He did not expect that this Yun Xiaoling would really treat him as a senior expert. Haha, it's really fun. Yao Yao, are you distant from me? Li Lingtian smiled. He felt an inexplicable sense of discomfort when he saw Yun Yaoyao's expression. The two of them had a good relationship, but now that they were bowing like this, they seemed to be estranged. He pointed with one hand and gestured for the two of them to sit down. In this place he was the master. Furthermore, he exuded an aura of superiority that he was born with. No matter what, he carried the aura of a superior. This was also the cultivation technique he had cultivated and a habit he had for a long time. Dragon Chi was originally the aura of the dragon race. He had cultivated the dragon race's holy scripture, so he naturally carried the arrogance of the dragon race. The heaven and earth reincarnation technique was also a sacred scripture of heaven and earth. In addition, the divine array diagram carried the aura of a god. The divine artifact in his body also increased his aura, and he naturally had the aura of a superior. Seeing Li Lingtian's actions and recalling how Li Lingtian had easily killed a few martial kings, Yun Xiaoling was even more certain that the young man before him was a hermit powerhouse. This aura was not fake at all. Even if it was fake, it could not be fake. Junior brother. Yun Yaoyao was taken aback, but her heart leaped with joy. She did not like being so distant with Li Lingtian, but her father told her not to be rude since Li Lingtian might be a super powerhouse. He was feeling uncomfortable when he saluted earlier, but he was overjoyed when he heard Li Lingtian's words. It's fine. I'm also a disciple of Maple Leaf Manor. Yao Yao and I are still senior siblings. When Li Lingtian saw that Yun Xiaoling was about to speak up to stop Yun Yaoyao, he reached out and shook his hand to stop Yun Xiaoling from speaking. As for my identity, there's no need for you to know, but I can tell you that I'm not from the Azure continent. When I was ambushed by others, one used spatial translocation to come here. Fortunately, elder sister Yaoyao saved my life. As for my cultivation level, it's impossible for you to know. However, I can tell you that as long as I'm here, Maple Leaf Manor will be safe. Li Lingtian leaned back in his chair leisurely with a faint smile on his face as he stroked Little White's head with both hands. The snow-white fur became messy under his palm. Little White did not resist at all and even showed a look of enjoyment. He glanced at Yun Xiaoling and Yun Yaoyao and spoke indifferently, as if he was talking to himself. He did not care if the two of them stopped or not. He was not worried about that at all because Yun Xiaoling and Yun Yaoyao did not even dare to breathe loudly as they listened carefully to Li Lingtian's words. Both of them were shocked when they heard the last part. However, Li Lingtian's last sentence made Yun Xiaoling smile excitedly. He wasn't from the Azure continent, which meant that this young man had no enemies in the Azure continent. Spatial translocation? Although it sounded so calm, it stirred up a monstrous wave in Yun Xiaoling's heart. Spatial translocation was the same as crossing over. Crossing worlds to come, what kind of concept was that? The collapse of a martial king was simply unimaginable. Even if they didn't cross over, they would still be earth-shattering experts if they could come into contact with a mysterious existence like space. He was most concerned about the current crisis at Maple Leaf Villa. However, Li Lingtian had said that he could ensure the safety of Maple Leaf Villa. In other words, with him around, no one would dare to touch Maple Leaf Villa. Junior brother, did you really teleport here? Didn't you say that you don't have any cultivation? How are we going to defeat those martial kings? What Yun Yaoyao wanted to know the most was how Li Lingtian could easily kill a warrior king without any cultivation. She thought about how he had quietly ambushed a dozen warrior spirits during the small gathering. Now that he thought about it, those warrior spirits who were on the brink of death did not even know about Li Lingtian's strength. Furthermore, Li Lingtian wanted to go to the toilet. It turned out that he had already known that someone would intercept them on the way. Hence, he took the initiative to eliminate the Zhou and Ling clan's disciples. Hey! During the battle, the light of God's wrath was attracted. I was the first to bear the brunt of the light of God's wrath. In the end, one don't know anything. No cultivation. Indeed, one don't have any cultivation. However, this is only temporary. Even without cultivation, some martial kings are just ants in front of me. Hearing Yun Yaoyao's question, Li Lingtian did not want to disappoint her, so he gave a vague account of his loss. As for the war, he did not even need to mention it. That's right. When Yun Bing and I were waiting for the star spirit, we heard the sound of something falling to the ground and the sound of blood spurting out. It turns out that junior brother was transferred here at that time. Yun Yaoyao was reminded of what happened that day after hearing Li Lingtian's words. The dull thud was the sound of Li Lingtian falling to the ground. He then fell unconscious. There was nothing wrong with that. The two of them were talking enthusiastically, but Yun Xiaoling was stunned. He was extremely shocked. He was a martial king. Although he didn't know much, he knew about the light of God's fury. The legendary light of God's fury could destroy all living beings. Moreover, the light of divine wrath was a forbidden skill used by a super expert, so there was a 1 in a billion chance of attracting the light of divine wrath. He did not expect the young man in front of him to actually trigger the God's fury light. What level of strength had he reached? Furthermore, the fact that he could survive under the divine rage was simply a myth. I'll give you a list of ingredients for Yao Yao's 19 absolute meridians after some time. As long as I find all the ingredients, 1 foot 11 inches, think of a way to refine a cauldron of pills. With Yao Yao's constitution, pills, and my cultivation technique, it should be enough. Li Lingtian seemed to have thought of something. Since he had already spoken his mind, there was nothing to hide. Moreover, no one would believe what he said. In the Azure continent, no one knew him, so there was no need to worry about this. He didn't want Yun Yaoyao to be tortured on the verge of death. She was a peerless beauty and shouldn't be tortured like this. Chapter 218 Mu Family 1. Chapter 218 Mu Family 1. Junior brother, aren't you here to make me happy? Can you solve Yao Yao's 19 absolute meridians? Please forgive me for being overly excited. Yun Yaoyao was stunned for a moment before she became excited. She looked at Li Lingtian seriously. The 19 absolute meridians could only be resolved by a Tier 5 alchemist's elixir and miraculous methods. How could this junior brother in front of her have a solution? Yun Xiaoling was also shocked. Yun Yaoyao's physique was so strong that even after exhausting all his energy, he still couldn't do anything about it. Yet, the young man in front of him said it so easily. He immediately cried out in surprise. However, when he thought of how magical this young man was, he thought that if he doubted him like this, he would be finished if the other party got angry. After saying that, he hurriedly apologized. Yao Yao, chat with me for a while. They won't die if they don't seek death. As long as the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor don't go out and cause trouble, they won't be in trouble. Li Lingtian shook his head and told Yun Yaoyao. Naturally, Yun Xiaoling could sense Li Lingtian's intention to chase him away. He then cupped his fists and left. Upon hearing Li Lingtian's words, he nodded earnestly. Yun Xiaoling gradually relaxed. This young man was a disciple of the Maple Leaf Manor, and the danger of the Maple Leaf Manor could be guaranteed. When she came in, she had a lot on her mind, but when she left, she was much more relaxed. Her face was also filled with joy. Yao Yao, will I eat you? After Yun Xiaoling left, Li Lingtian looked at Yun Yaoyao's expression and burst into laughter. The atmosphere in the courtyard, which was originally a little dull, suddenly relaxed. Although Yun Yaoyao had many things she wanted to know, she already knew a lot. The things that worried her the most had disappeared. She was worried that Li Lingtian's identity would ruin their friendship. However, she was relieved to see Li Lingtian like this. Moreover, Li Lingtian had promised to help her resolve the problem of her 19 terminal meridians. He had given her too many surprises today. That day, he did not expect that he would save this young man's life and the two of them would become friends. Moreover, this young man was a super expert. I'm not afraid. I'm your senior sister. Yun Yaoyao smiled. For a moment, the two of them were no longer restrained and returned to their usual calm and laughter. Following that, Li Lingtian guided Yun Yaoyao on her cultivation. Since she had the 19 absolute meridians, cultivating a water-type cultivation method would be twice the result with half the effort. With Li Lingtian's guidance, he would not take the wrong path. Yun Yaoyao was excited as well. Some of the cultivation problems that she could not understand in the past were now a piece of cake for Li Lingtian. The two of them were cultivating in the courtyard. Outside, the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor were still in shock. During this period of time, don't leave the manor. Just cultivate in the manor. Don't hit Sir Lingtian unless there's something important. He's still him. Don't tell anyone about Maple Leaf Manor. Yun Xiaoling gathered all the disciples together and spoke in a serious tone. All the disciples understood that Li Lingtian was no longer the junior brother without any cultivation but a powerhouse. When the disciples thought about it, they no longer had any doubts. An alchemist who could refine high-grade medicinal pills was definitely not simple. Turned out that he was a super expert. Naturally, there was no need to say anything. Now that there was a super expert in Maple Leaf Manor, even a few big families would not easily provoke Maple Leaf Manor. However, it would not be so easy to refine medicinal pills in the future. After all, he now knew that the other party was an expert. Soon after, Yun Xiaoling collected the storage pouches of over 30 warrior spirits and 4 warrior kings, and personally delivered them to Li Lingtian's courtyard. However, Li Lingtian did not even bother to look at them. Li Lingtian did not even spare a glance at the breeze/inferior imperial weapon when he asked Yun Xiaoling to distribute the wealth to his disciples. This situation shocked Yun Xiaoling even more. He did not even look at the emperor weapon. What kind of person was this? Then, he recalled that Li Lingtian had not used any weapons from the beginning to the end. He had killed all the warriors with just 2 simple moves. Maple Leaf Manor was fine, but the Mu clan, Zhou clan and Ling clan couldn't sit still. The martial king they sent out did not return. Even the warrior spirit disciples did not return. The Mu clan was going crazy. Mu Ao was a peak tier 9 martial king. With his emperor weapon, even a tier 1 martial grandmaster would not be able to kill him. But now that he had gone to Maple Leaf Manor, there was no news of him. Could it be that someone from Purple Wind Sect is in Maple Leaf Manor? With Ao's strength, even a master of the first rank wouldn't be able to kill him. Mu Tu looked anxious. He was Mu Ao's father and a first-level martial emperor. Without any news of his only son, he was naturally restless. The people from the Purple Wind Sect haven't been to the Maple Leaf Manor in the past 2 years. Naturally, they can't be from the Purple Wind Sect. Only a martial arts grandmaster can defeat Ao. Last year, young Master Lu of the Purple Wind Sect wanted to marry Yu Niaoyao from Maple Leaf Manor, but she rejected him. From then on, Maple Leaf Manor was almost abandoned by the Purple Wind Sect. Naturally, it couldn't be the Purple Wind Sect. Mu said seriously. This matter was an open secret in the Soliciting Moon Mountains. If a disciple of a super sect wanted to marry a woman from a subordinate family, it would naturally be the honor of the subordinate family. This way they could fly up to the branch and become a phoenix. However, they never expected to be rejected. This was naturally a huge loss of face. In the Soliciting Moon Mountains, the Purple Wind Sect had become a laughingstock in the eyes of countless low-level disciples because of this incident. Mu Yu was also a genius disciple of the Mu family. She was only a few years older than Mu Ao, but her cultivation had reached the 3rd level of the martial arts grandmaster. It was Mu Ao's cousin. Mu Ao's death should have upset him, but in his heart, he was very excited. In the clan there was constant competition. He naturally did not want Mu Ao to become a core disciple of the clan. We have to start with the Purple Wind Sect to put some pressure on them. Let them deal with it themselves. Killing the disciples of the Mu family is courting death. Mu Litian said coldly. The current clan leader was a 6th-level martial emperor. Naturally, he had to show his clan leader's aura. The Mu clan was much stronger than the Purple Wind Sect. With the Zhou clan and Ling clan's influence, even the Purple Wind Sect would have to submit obediently. All of this had nothing to do with Li Lingtian of Maple Leaf Villa. He was currently lying on a chair and sleeping soundly. Yu Niaoyao, on the other hand, was focused on her cultivation. With an omnipotent junior brother like Li Lingtian, her cultivation progress was extremely fast. Li Lingtian also cultivated at night. During the day, he practiced some skills and comprehended some cultivation techniques. In his spare time, he would refine some pills. However, he also spent 2 hours a day refining pills for the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor. Initially, the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor did not dare to ask Li Lingtian for a pill refinement. However, a Tier 6 warrior spirit disciple who had reached a bottleneck in his cultivation took the risk to ask Li Lingtian for a pill refinement. She thought that Li Lingtian was going to reject her, but she did not expect him to refine the pill without any hesitation. Moreover, he also said that he would refine pills for his fellow disciples for 2 hours every day, unless there were some unexpected things. Junior brother Li, when I was cultivating the purple cloud technique, I always felt that something was wrong. Although my cultivation increased very quickly, I felt that my meridians were getting weaker and weaker. A Tier 1 warrior spirit disciple had a bitter look on his face as he bowed respectfully to Li Lingtian and voiced his question. They knew how powerful Li Lingtian was, so these things were just a piece of cake for him. Show me the purple cloud technique. Li Lingtian casually glanced at the young man before him as he spoke. Thank you, junior brother. The young man handed over a jade slip with an excited expression. If someone else asked him for his cultivation technique, he would never give it to them. In the divine martial continent, no one would ask for the cultivation technique of the other party, let alone ask for it. However, this junior brother in front of him was omnipotent. Now he was asking for his help. Moreover, he also understood that this junior brother in front of him did not care about his cultivation techniques at all. Li Lingtian scanned the jade slip with his divine perception. It was an ordinary advanced yellow tier cultivation method, but it was incomplete and could not be cultivated. Don't use this jade slip. The cultivation technique is incomplete, so you naturally can't cultivate it. As Li Lingtian spoke, he clenched his fist and the jade slip turned into ashes. He then took out a blank jade slip from his storage pouch and inserted his divine perception into the blank jade slip to record the purple cloud technique. However, he had modified the he had inscribed. He had definitely perfected the flaws of the and was even more powerful than the real. After doing everything, he threw the jade slip to the young man and waved his hand, signaling for the young man to leave. The young man held the jade slip with an excited expression. They naturally understood one thing, and that was that dragons did not make enemies with ants. Naturally, Li Lingtian would not joke around with him since he had destroyed his cultivation technique jade slip. Now that he had made a new jade slip, the problem with the cultivation technique must have been solved by this junior brother. The young man respectfully bowed and left. After leaving the courtyard, he had a curious expression on his face. His divine sense entered the jade slip, and his expression changed drastically. In the end, he became excited. This was the real purple cloud technique. All his problems were solved in this jade slip. As long as he cultivated according to the purple cloud technique in this jade slip, his problems would be solved. Moreover, he might be able to cultivate faster than before. Li Lingtian encountered such situations every day. He spent 2 hours either helping the disciples refine elixirs or solving their cultivation problems. In the end, even a few warrior kings came to him for help. In front of Li Lingtian, these things were all at his fingertips. He cultivated the cannon, and his cultivation techniques were all earth-grade skills. They had also reached the limit, so naturally, there was nothing that could stump him. Time passed day by day. It had been 10 days since he had killed the 3 family disciples. However, after 10 days, Li Lingtian did not think that these people would let Maple Leaf Manor go. Instead, he was just waiting for an opportunity. As expected, Yunyaoyao came to the courtyard while Li Lingtian was cultivating. She informed him that the Purple Wind sect, the Zhou Mu and Ling clans were here as well. Li Lingtian nodded and gestured for Yunyao to leave. "Sai, there are always some trash coming to disturb me. They're simply courting death." After Yunyaoyao left, Li Lingtian stood up and sighed. He then composed himself and walked out. Chapter 219 Refining Pills in Public. Chapter 219 Refining Pills in Public. When Li Lingtian arrived at the living room, Yun Xiaoling and the 6 warrior kings were gathered there. Their expressions were a little solemn. Opposite them were 4 martial arts grandmasters. Although the 4 martial arts grandmasters were all at the first rank, their strength was very deep. They were much stronger than the martial artists in Green Island. He was certain that the Azure Continent's martial artists were no match for the Azure Continent's martial artists. This was because of the cultivation techniques and skills. There were abundant resources here, so the cultivation techniques were naturally much stronger. Lingtian, come. Let me introduce you. This is Elder Wang Haotian of the Purple Wind Sect, Young Master Mu Yu of the Mu family, Elder Ling Yun of the Ling family, and Elder Zhou Yunjun of the Zhou family. When Yun Xiaoling saw Li Lingtian's arrival, he carefully sized him up, trying to see the changes in Li Lingtian's expression when he faced these martial arts grandmasters. This was because he could tell Li Lingtian's background from his expression. However, he was disappointed. Li Lingtian's expression was calm and emotionless. No one knew what he was thinking. However, Yun Xiaoling was relieved. At least Li Lingtian was neither shocked nor disdainful when he saw the martial arts grandmaster. This meant that Li Lingtian was not afraid of martial arts grandmasters. He was prepared to address Li Lingtian as your lord, but under such circumstances, it was inappropriate to draw their attention to Li Lingtian. However, he introduced the 4 martial arts grandmaster powerhouses to Li Lingtian so that he could be prepared. The 4 martial arts grandmasters looked at the young man who had no cultivation. The arrival of this young man surprised them. The people present were all elders of Maple Leaf Manor. The 4 of them were elders of the 3 major families and Purple Wind Sect, and they were super martial arts grandmasters. Yun Xiaoling pushing out a youth without any cultivation made them somewhat puzzled. However, what happened next infuriated the 4 martial arts grandmasters. The young man in front of them did not react at all after being introduced by Yun Xiaoling. They had thought that this disciple would bow respectfully in shock, but this was beyond their expectations. Yes. Li Lingtian nodded gently. Moreover, he only nodded at Yun Xiaoling as if he was saying that he understood. He completely ignored the existence of the 4 martial arts grandmasters and sat casually on a seat. This seat was actually in front of them. Yun Xiaoling was shocked as well. Li Lingtian was looking for trouble by ignoring these grandmasters. Junior, don't you have any manners in Maple Leaf Manor? Elder Wang Haotian of Purple Wind Sect couldn't sit still anymore. He was being ignored by a disciple of a subordinate force. He had no face left. If he didn't teach this disciple a lesson, he wouldn't be able to appease his hatred. Initially, he didn't have anything good to say about Maple Leaf Manor. Now he hated Maple Leaf Manor even more. Hey Brother Wang, the slaves under your Purple Wind Sect are getting better and better. Mu Yu smiled, his expression extremely cold. Although this young man didn't have a cultivation base, he was handsome and elegant, making him jealous from the bottom of his heart. However, he knew his limits. He came here to ask Purple Wind Sect to give up on Maple Leaf Manor. When the time came, they would wipe out Maple Leaf Manor. Then they would forget about the deaths of the Zhou family and Ling family disciples and ask Maple Leaf Manor and Purple Wind Sect to compensate them. This would be the perfect ending. Yun Xiaoling, do you want me to take action? If you don't give a good result to the disciple you're disciplining, just this disciple's matter alone will make your Maple Leaf Manor a slave of my Purple Wind Sect in the future. Wang Haotian looked at Mu Yu coldly. He was furious. He would send Zifeng to deal with the matters in Maple Leaf Villa. There was no need for the Mu family to interfere. However, the Mu family could not afford to offend the Purple Wind Sect now, so they could only endure it. He looked at Yun Xiaoling with a sharp gaze, completely ignoring the rude young man in front of him. This? Elder Wang, let me introduce you. This is our Maple Leaf Villa disciple Li Lingtian. Although he doesn't have a cultivation base, he's an alchemist. Li Lingtian did not even look at the 4 martial arts grandmasters and Yun Xiaoling. He wanted to see how Yun Xiaoling handled things. He also wanted to know how bold Yun Xiaoling was. If he did not have that courage, he would not be worth his help. Yun Xiaoling was taken aback. He was in a dilemma when faced with Wang Haotian's accusation. On one side was the martial arts grandmaster's elder, and on the other was the mysterious powerhouse Li Lingtian. If they blamed Li Lingtian, they would definitely offend him. If they did not deal with Li Lingtian, they would not know how to answer to Wang Haotian. His heart raced and he quickly changed the topic. He began to think about what choice he should make. Oh, an alchemist without any cultivation. Without cultivation, even if he were to refine pills, it would only be some ordinary pills. Such a pill refiner is basically useless. Ling Yun said coldly, his face full of disdain. The Ling family had many pill refiners, including a spirit alchemist. Naturally, they looked down on pill refiners without cultivation. In the divine martial continent without cultivation, it was impossible to refine any good pills. Good pills needed to be complemented by a strong cultivation. Ignorant. Li Lingtian lifted his head and shot a disdainful glance at Ling Yun. He was simply an amateur when it came to saying such words. In the divine martial continent, even though one needed to have a profound cultivation base to refine pills, it was an exception in front of him. This was also the reason why Ling Yun met Li Lingtian. In other places, what he said would definitely make sense. Without a good cultivation, one would be powerless when refining pills. Li Lingtian's voice was like thunder in the quiet living room. He actually insulted the martial arts grandmaster in front of him. The disdain in his eyes almost drove people crazy. The 4 martial grandmasters, Yun Xiaoling, and the 6 martial kings looked at Li Lingtian in shock. The entire atmosphere was like a powder keg that had been ignited. You're courting death. Ling Yun's face was livid. He could forget about being rude to them at the start, but now he was scolding him for his ignorance in front of everyone. How could he endure this? A shocking aura burst out from his body. Instantly, the entire living room seemed to be about to explode. The aura of a martial arts grandmaster suppressed Yun Xiaoling and the others. They could not even breathe. A terrifying pressure pressed down on Li Lingtian. In the blink of an eye, the destructive pressure descended from the sky. Wang Haoyan, Mu Yu and Zhou Yunjuan's expressions changed as well. They didn't expect Ling Yun to be so powerful. In the past, their strengths were almost the same, but now it seemed that Ling Yun had already reached the peak of stage 1 and was one step into stage 2. The few of them were shocked by Ling Yun's strength. They completely disregarded the young man, Li Lingtian. In their opinion, Li Lingtian would be crushed to death by such a force. However, at this moment, an even more terrifying pressure soared into the sky. This pressure carried a shocking demonic power and a mysterious aura. The snow-white rabbit in Li Lingtian's arms was staring at Ling Yun with its blood-red eyes. It was the source of the terrifying pressure. Boom! With a loud explosion, all the furniture in the living room turned into ashes. The two forces collided, and Ling Yun spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with shock. His body quickly retreated and only stopped when he hit the pillar in the living room. His body fell weakly, and his eyes were filled with fear. At the same time, everyone in the living room spat out a mouthful of blood, their faces pale with fear. Li Lingtian was the only one who was sitting on the chair with Little White in his arms. His expression was calm and his smile remained. A light shield appeared on Mu Yu's body. However, the light shield was extremely weak and could be shattered at any moment. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. He was a rank 3 martial arts grandmaster, much stronger than Wang Haoyan and Zhou Yunjun, who were rank 1 martial arts grandmasters. However, their faces were filled with fear. In an instant, the 3 martial arts grandmasters retreated and stood on the open ground. They looked at Li Lingtian from afar and channeled their true essence. They were deeply afraid of the young man who had no cultivation before them. I say you are ignorant because you have too little knowledge. Since I say you are ignorant, then one will make you admit defeat. The 3 of you don't leave. Watch how I refine pills. One don't like to be disturbed when 1 a.m. refining pills. Li Lingtian stood up and walked out step by step. Little White was still asleep in his arms. It acted as if everything that had happened earlier had nothing to do with it. The 3 martial arts grandmasters and the injured Ling Yun retreated as if they had seen a ghost. He glanced at the 4 martial arts grandmasters and tossed Little White away as if it was trash. However, just as Little White was about to land on the ground, it appeared on Li Lingtian's shoulder. The few martial arts grandmasters, as well as Yun Xiaoling and the others who came out of the living room, were all extremely shocked. The one who had just emitted a shocking pressure was this snow-white rabbit. What kind of powerful demonic beast was this rabbit? It could actually injure a martial arts grandmaster with just a casual wave of pressure. However, this powerful demonic beast was being tossed around like trash by Li Lingtian. What kind of person was this? The 7 warrior kings and 4 martial arts grandmasters were horrified when they saw little white on Li Lingtian's shoulder. Alchemy requires the integration of body, mind, spirit, and will. Only then can one enter the world of alchemy. An alchemist who only has a physical form and no spirit will not be able to refine good pills. 2. Let me show you what pill Dao is and what pill concoction is. Li Lingtian completely ignored the powerhouses present. Many Maple Leaf Villa disciples had also arrived at the open space. They were filled with admiration when they saw Li Lingtian talking to the few martial arts grandmasters. Furthermore, they realized that the martial arts grandmasters were actually deeply afraid of their junior brother. Li Lingtian, on the other hand, paid no heed to these people. Instead, he explained earnestly as he took out the pill cauldron and carefully examined it. As if he was looking at a beloved person, he took out 7 to 8 medicinal herbs. These medicinal herbs were all 100-year-old and were well preserved. They were as fresh as if they had just been picked. Following that, Li Lingtian gave a serious explanation as he skillfully selected the herbs and condensed the spirit fire with spiritual stones. He was skilled just like a pill refining grandmaster. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 220 Jade-Eyed Beasts Breakthrough. Chapter 220 Jade-Eyed Beasts Breakthrough. The herbs were all 100-year-old and very precious. Everyone could tell that Li Lingtian was very particular about the ingredients when he was refining pills. Could it be that he is refining a Tier 3 medicinal pili? Refining a Grade 2 pill with 100-year-old medicinal ingredients, the quality definitely won't be bad. If you can refine a Tier 3 medicinal pill, then you're an alchemy grandmaster. Everyone was discussing softly. The 4 Wuzongs were also extremely surprised and even more afraid. The young man was too terrifying. However, they did not dare to leave without Li Lingtian's permission. In an instant, the expressions on their faces kept changing. Collect the pills. 20 minutes had passed, but Li Lingtian's expression remained unchanged. He was not distracted at all and remained focused. In the end, after the spiritual qi between heaven and earth entered the cauldron, spells were cast one after another, and finally the cauldron opened. A string of light and shadow shot out, forming a line that kept spinning in the air. What a rich medicinal fragrance! The spiritual energy of this pill is so dense. It's a Tier 4 medicinal pill. Tier 4 high-grade medicinal pill. Seeing the pill in the air, everyone revealed greedy expressions. They were completely attracted by the fragrance of the pill. The few martial arts grandmasters and martial kings were shocked because the spiritual energy of this pill was rich. The quality of the pill must be very good. In the end, he discovered that this medicinal pill was actually a 4th-grade purple jade pill. Li Lingtian's expression did not change. A jade bottle appeared and the pills were sucked into it. The 4 pills streaked through the air and arrived in front of the 4 martial arts grandmasters. The pill floated in the air, but one could clearly see that it was a 4th-grade purple jade pill. The purple jade pill, a 4th-grade pill, was easily refined in 20 minutes. More importantly, this pill was of high quality. Judging from the light shadow that was spinning in the air just now, there should be 69 pills in this cauldron. To be able to concoct a high-grade 4th-grade pill in 20 minutes with a success rate of 69 pills, who else in the soliciting Moon Mountain range could compare to such alchemy skills? Even an alchemist didn't have such powerful alchemy skills. The expressions on the faces of the 4 martial arts grandmasters turned ugly. Offending an alchemy master was unwise. Offending a young top alchemy grandmaster who could easily refine a high-grade Tier 4 pill was even more unwise. Get lost. I just want to refine pills in peace. One don't like to be disturbed when I'm refining pills. With a flick of Li Lingtian's finger, 4 high-grade Tier 4 purple jade pills turned into spirit qi and vanished into thin air. The 4 precious Tier 4 pills were gone just like that. Such a pill would cost at least several thousand low-grade spirit stones outside, but it was easily turned into spiritual energy by him. This was the boldness of an alchemist. Medicinal pills were completely different in front of him because they had the ability to casually refine such medicinal pills. Sorry to disturb you. Upon hearing Li Lingtian's words, the four martial arts grandmaster powerhouses glanced at the snow-white rabbit on Li Lingtian's shoulder in fear before they left with cupped fists. He came and went in a hurry, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from Maple Leaf Manor. They understood that they had kicked an iron plate this time. The young man in front of them was mysterious and terrifying, and the snow-white rabbit beside him was even more terrifying. More importantly, this young man was a top-notch alchemy grandmaster. In terms of alchemy Tao, even spirit alchemists could not compare. He had just used an extremely short period of time to refine a level 4 medicinal pill in front of everyone. If he was alone, it was hard to guarantee that he would be able to refine a level 5 medicinal pills. Moreover, being able to refine a tier 4 medicinal pill to a high-grade quality in a short while was absolutely not what alchemy grandmasters could do. They did not dare to make a decision on this matter. Moreover, if they really stayed, they would stay forever. Seeing the four martial arts grandmasters leave dejectedly, Yun Xiaoling and the rest were extremely excited. Furthermore, he had witnessed Li Lingtian's strength and his alchemy skills. Take it. With a wave of Li Lingtian's hand, the jade bottle in his hand flew out and quickly arrived in front of Yun Xiaoling. Before Yun Xiaoling could react, he reached out and caught it. It was only after he caught it that he realized that it was a Tier 4 advanced purple jade pill. After handing the pills to Yun Xiaoling, Li Lingtian turned around and headed back to his residence. He did not kill these four martial arts grandmasters because he did not want to make things awkward. Moreover, he needed time to recuperate now and could not easily make enemies. He had given the other party a show of strength and stopped when he was done, so that the other party did not know his depth. Coupled with his pill Dao techniques, he believed that as long as the other party was not an idiot, they would not offend him. If the other party had any bad intentions, he would not be someone to provoke. After this incident, the Maple Leaf Villa warriors had even more respect for Li Lingtian. A martial king was easily killed, and now even a martial arts grandmaster had fled. Coupled with his alchemy skills, no one would not respect and envy him. Li Lingtian returned to his residence to cultivate. However, he suddenly noticed something unusual in the divine dragon ring. His expression changed and he asked Little White to stand guard outside. Then he sent his spiritual awareness into the divine dragon ring. When he entered the divine dragon ring, his face revealed an excited expression. He didn't expect the jade-eyed beast to advance. Originally, the jade-eyed beast was at the 4th step, level 9. Now the jade-eyed beast was already at the peak of the 4th step, level 9. Catch it. Li Lingtian tossed a few heavenly monster pills over when he saw the situation. With these heavenly monster pills and the jade-eyed beast's current demonic power, it would be easier for him to break through. The jade-eyed beast opened its mouth and swallowed the 6 heaven fey cores when it saw the pills flying toward it. Instantly, the demonic power in its entire body skyrocketed. The dragon chi in the divine dragon ring was also pressing towards this side. Under the pressure of the dragon chi, the monster power in the jade-eyed beast's body had reached a critical point. Roar! With a roar of excitement, the 4th tier level 9 successfully advanced to the 5th tier level 1 demonic beast. Although it was only a distance of 1 tier, the difference between tier 4 level 9 and tier 5 level 1 was like the difference between heaven and earth. Li Lingtian was extremely excited to see the jade-eyed beast successfully enter tier 5. The jade-eyed beast advancing at this time was no different from his own breakthrough. Now that his cultivation had disappeared, he needed protection. The stronger the jade-eyed beast was, the more secure he would be. Now he had 2 5th-level demonic beasts and 2 4th-level demonic beasts. With such strength, he could even resist a 9th-level martial emperor. He left the divine dragon ring with a faint smile on his face and started cultivating. When the jade-eyed beast broke through, it would naturally be safer for him. However, when he encountered experts, he still had to rely on himself. Although Xiaobai had revealed a little of her strength, she had obtained the desired effect. The 3 big families and Purple Wind sect no longer came to cause trouble for Maple Leaf Manor. It was as if this matter had never happened. Moreover, Li Lingtian's reputation as an alchemist had gradually spread throughout the Soliciting Moon Mountains. He was able to refine a high-grade Tier 4 pill within 20 minutes. Even the alchemists of the Soliciting Moon Mountain range could not do such a thing. Naturally, the three major clans would not do anything stupid to provoke Li Lingtian. The Purple Wind sect had also sent a Tier 6 martial arts grandmaster powerhouse to comfort Maple Leaf Manor. They naturally wanted to rope in such a person. Moreover, this person was a disciple of their subsidiary Strength. The pavilion closest to the water would benefit first. If they were pulled away by other forces, it would be strange if they didn't cry to death. However, Li Lingtian had never seen this Tier 6 warrior ascendant powerhouse. He had always used the excuse of refining pills and going into seclusion as an excuse. Moreover, many warriors suspected that Li Lingtian had concealed his cultivation base. Otherwise, he would not have been so bold. In this way, Li Lingtian was pleased as he could cultivate in peace to recover his cultivation base. As the days passed, Li Lingtian used a Tier 3 elixir to recover his cultivation. A month later, his cultivation had reached Tier 9 warrior spirit. As long as he found the right opportunity, he would be able to break through to the Martial King realm. As long as he reached the Martial King realm, he would have some strength to protect himself. This way, he could also search for thousand-year-old medicinal herbs in peace. He could find a few thousand-year-old medicinal herbs to refine the soul-restoring pill, break through to the spirit alchemist realm, and recover the martial arts grandmaster realm. At Maple Leaf Villa, everyone was respectful to Li Lingtian. Even though they appeared easygoing, they were still extremely respectful. Only Yunyaoyao Yunbing and Xingling did not feel restrained around Li Lingtian. Yunyaoyao was even more confident that Li Lingtian could refine a grade 5 elixir to resolve her 9 terminal meridians. This period of time was also the happiest time for Yunyaoyao. On this day, Li Lingtian took out a jade slip and handed it to Yunyao. This jade slip contains the medicinal ingredients that I need. As long as one find these medicinal ingredients, I can refine a Tier 5 medicinal pill. You also have a chance to resolve your 9 absolute meridians. Li Lingtian replied earnestly. He rarely left the courtyard and Yun Yaoyao would pass on some of his messages to Yun Xiaoling. He found it funny. He needed a soul-restoring pill to recover his martial ancestor realm, and Yun Yaoyao needed a 5th grade pill to remove her 9 terminated meridians. This soul-restoring pill was useful for the two of them. Really? That's great. I'll get father to look for the medicinal herbs needed inside. Yun Yaoyao was so happy that her little face turned red. Although Li Lingtian had previously mentioned refining a grade 5 pill to remove her 9 terminated meridians, he had never put it into practice. How could she not be excited when Li Lingtian asked for medicinal herbs to refine pills? In her eyes, this junior brother of hers was omnipotent. As long as she found the medicinal ingredients, she could refine the pill and solve her 9 absolute meridians. Without the 9 absolute meridians, he would not be threatened by death. After he finished speaking, a string of sparkling tears fell from his face. He was already 18 years old and only had 2 years left to live. She was in the prime of her youth and was about to die young. Although she looked happy every day, she was still a young girl. How could he really let go? His beautiful youth had disappeared into dust just like that. Naturally, he was unwilling. What was the use of being unwilling? Because she didn't have a 5th grade medicinal pill or a mystical cultivation method, she could only bear the arrangement of fate. However, Li Lingtian's appearance had brought her hope and the hope of rebirth. Yao Yao sis. Li Lingtian called out softly but did not say anything. He merely gave an encouraging look with a faint smile on his face. There was no need for him to say anything more. He was also very impressed with this girl. It was really not easy for a young girl to be able to do this. Chapter 221 Chapter 221 Refining the Soul-Restoring Pill. Chapter 221 Refining the Soul-Restoring Pill. Thank you, junior brother. Yun Yaoyao wiped her tears away with a silk handkerchief. Her face blushed as she thanked him softly. This was also the first time she had shed tears after learning about her 9 absolute meridians, and it was in front of a man. Then he took the jade slip and left the courtyard. handing it to Yun Xiaoling. Before he left, Li Lingtian even told him that he would purchase the herb himself if he had any information on the herb or if he could not obtain it. After Yun Xiaoling received the jade scroll, he was stunned when he saw that the herbs inside were all 1,000-year-old. Although he was already mentally prepared that a grade 5 pill required 1,000 years of medicinal herbs, Maple Leaf Manor simply could not produce such medicinal herbs at the moment. There were no spirit stones or medicinal herbs. A clan could be considered to be at the end of their rope when they reached this stage. Although the Maple Leaf Manor was a family, most of the people were disciples of the Maple Leaf Manor. The manor did not have any spirit stones, and the disciples below were also poor. Father, Junior Brother Li said that we just need to get the information and whereabouts of the medicinal herbs. He will think of a way. Yun Yaoyao felt terrible when she saw her father's state. Over the past few years, the manor had been in a dire situation in order to find pills for her and remove her 9 terminal meridians. Fortunately, there was Junior Brother Li at this time. Otherwise, there was really no other way. Hey! Yun Xiaoling only sighed. Li Lingtian had not been in Maple Leaf Villa for long and had given him a lot of trouble. If it were not for Li Lingtian, Maple Leaf Villa would have been finished. She could only feel guilty and grateful for Li Lingtian's help in Maple Leaf Villa. After that, the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor went around asking about the whereabouts of the 7,000-year-old herbs. What they didn't expect was that the 7,000-year-old herbs were easily obtained, and it was someone else who delivered them to their doorstep. When the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor were searching for medicinal herbs, the news was leaked. Many martial artists were envious when they learned that Maple Leaf Manor was going to refine a 5th-grade pill. Maple Leaf Manor concocted Tier 5 pills, which meant that Maple Leaf Manor had a spirit alchemist. The only possibility of being an alchemist was Li Lingtian. Only his alchemy skills were so powerful. Brother Yun, I heard that Your Excellency Apothecary Lingtian is going to refine a medicinal pill and is lacking a few medicinal ingredients. I happen to have 1,000-year snow jade flower here, and since one don't have much use for it, it would be best to give it to you. A martial arts grandmaster from the Chun family smiled as he handed a box containing 1,000-year snow jade flower to Yun Xiaoling. Yun Xiaoling had seen this expression and smile many times over the past few days. At first he was at a loss, but he slowly got used to it because all of this was directed at Li Lingtian. 1,000-year-old medicinal herb was just a stalk of medicinal herb for those who did not need it. However, for those who needed it, it was definitely a timely help. Such a medicinal herb would only cost 10,000 spirit stones outside. 10,000 spiritual stones was a shocking amount of wealth for a low-level martial artist, but it was a piece of cake for a martial arts grandmaster. Moreover, it was worth it to be able to use this medicinal herb to curry favor with a spirit pill master. Although these people who sent the medicinal herbs were only martial arts masters, they were also instructed by some large families. The large families cared about their reputation and could only let their subordinates suck up to them. In just a few days, the ingredients for the soul-restoring pill had reached 2 to 3 cauldrons. Li Lingtian shook his head as he looked at the ingredients. The medicinal ingredients had all been found, and it was time to refine the pill. Li Lingtian did not cultivate for the past 2 days. Instead, he was studying the Tier 5 Spirit Restoring Pill's recipe. He spent most of his time resting and trying to adjust his mental state to its peak. His state of mind also slowly calmed down. An alchemist had to be calm at all times. He was undoubtedly an excellent alchemist. The Ice Soul Martial Soul and the Flaming Sacred Body were the perfect physiques for alchemists. After resting for 3 days, Li Lingtian waved his hand continuously and cast a series of magic arts. The Divine Array diagram was also suspended in the courtyard. In a short 10 minutes, formations covered the entire courtyard. Moreover, there were 3 spirit gathering arrays floating in the air in a triangular formation. Refining a 5th-grade medicinal pill required a huge amount of spiritual energy. He did not want to have any trouble with the spiritual energy at the last moment of refining the medicinal pill. Fire Spiritual Array. Activate. After doing everything, he cast a small fire spirit array. With the Flaming Sacred Body, he could control everything about the fire element. The heaven and earth creation cauldron appeared as soon as the fire spirit array appeared. The cauldron slowly spun above the fire spirit array. Beside him were more than 20 kinds of medicinal herbs. There were medicinal herbs that were 500 years old and 1,000 years old. Warming the cauldron. A spell was cast, and the temperature of the fire spirit array rose. The heaven and earth creation cauldron also began to rotate rapidly. 2 minutes passed. The temperature of the heaven and earth creation cauldron had already reached the level of refining medicine. Warming the cauldron was also a skill. The temperature of the pill cauldron was directly related to the quality of the pill and the success rate of the pill. If the temperature was too high, the medicinal herbs would instantly turn into charcoal. If the temperature was too low, the impurities inside the medicinal herbs would not be able to be raised when they were refined. Refining medicine. After the cauldron was warmed up, a 500-year-old herb entered the cauldron. Li Lingtian's eyes were fixed on the cauldron as his divine perception locked onto it. This was the first time he was refining a grade 5 medicinal pill. Any change would determine the success or failure of the medicinal pill. Even if he failed, he would know which part of the process he had made a mistake in. This was the mentality and condition that an alchemist must possess. The medicinal herbs inside the cauldron melted in the blink of an eye. When the medicinal herbs melted, the second 500-year-old medicinal herb entered the cauldron. 500 years old medicinal herbs were the supplementary ingredients for a grade 5 pill. The supplementary ingredients were also a key to protecting the main ingredients. As time passed, Li Lingtian's divine consciousness remained locked in the cauldron as the herbs entered it one by one. 20 minutes passed, and the 21 medicinal herbs had turned into medicinal liquid. The last stalk of the 1,000-year snow jade flower had yet to be refined. Li Lingtian's expression was calm. With a wave of his hand, the 1,000-year snow jade flower entered the cauldron. Instantly, the inside of the pill cauldron was turned upside down. The 1,000-year-old snow jade flower stirred up waves in the pill cauldron. The originally calm medicinal liquid interacted well with each other. However, when the 1,000-year snow jade flower entered, all the medicinal liquid became unbalanced. Li Lingtian's expression changed slightly, as if there was a chemical reaction before he sighed. Bang! As expected, a muffled sound erupted from the cauldron. All the refined medicinal liquid turned into charcoal. The cauldron's medicinal pill completely failed. Shoo! He put away the cauldron and cleared the pitch-black medicinal liquid inside. He sat cross-legged and began to recall the situation inside the cauldron. Failure was the mother of success. Now that he had failed, he had to find the reason for it. Half an hour later, Li Lingtian opened his eyes again. He cast a spell on the cauldron and the medicinal aura in the cauldron vanished completely. Then he began to refine again. He warmed the cauldron and refined the medicine. He continued with his familiar techniques. Bang! There was another muffled sound. When the 1,000-year snow jade flower entered, it exploded again. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had slightly changed the order of the refinement this time, but it was of no use. First, refine the 1,000-year snow jade flower. Li Lingtian rested once again to absorb the experience of his failure. Finally, he came up with a solution, which was to refine the 1,000-year snow jade flower first. A solution might not necessarily succeed, but if there was no solution, it was destined to fail. Alchemy was originally a process of climbing out from countless failures. Otherwise, there would be more alchemists than martial artists in this world. Nurturing an alchemist was definitely not something that an ordinary clan could do, because alchemists were accumulated through the use of medicinal herbs. Using a vast amount of medicinal ingredients, he slowly grew up after countless failures as an alchemist. Warming the cauldron. Refining medicine. 1,000-year snow jade flower. After a series of practice techniques, the pill refinement began once again. The 1,000-year snow jade flower was finally refined. Li Lingtian carefully tossed a 500-year-old herb into the cauldron. This time Li Lingtian was delighted. At least the other medicinal liquids in the 1,000-year snow jade flower did not explode after they entered. Following that, the 20 medicinal herbs entered the cauldron one after another. The 22 medicinal ingredients were all turned into liquid. At this moment, Li Lingtian waved his hands and the cauldron began to spin rapidly. The medicinal liquid continued to fuse and slowly solidify due to the temperature. Spirit Gathering Array. Activate. Seeing that the medicinal liquid in the cauldron was almost frozen, Li Lingtian waved his hand and a spell shot out, landing directly on the Spirit Gathering Array. The 3 Spirit Gathering Arrays were activated, and a shocking amount of spirit chi surged in from all directions. The spiritual energy within a radius of 200 miles started to fluctuate and finally flew towards Maple Leaf Manor. At this moment, the martial artists cultivating in Maple Leaf Manor felt the fluctuation of spiritual energy and were extremely shocked. All of them watched as the spirit chi in the air that was almost tangible surged toward Li Lingtian's courtyard. Don't cultivate. Don't activate spiritual energy. At that moment, Yun Xiaoling saw the spirit chi in the air, and naturally understood that Li Lingtian was refining a grade 5 pill. Moreover, it was at the final juncture. The last step of a 5th grade medicinal pill was spirit infusion, infusing spiritual energy into the medicinal pill. The denser the spiritual energy, the better the quality of the pill. However, there was a limit to the amount of spiritual energy. If there was too much spiritual energy, the pill would explode. None of the warriors dared to breathe too loudly, let alone use the slightest bit of spirit chi. If Li Lingtian's pill refinement failed because of spirit chi, he would definitely be scolded to death by the others. The forces and families in the distance also felt the fluctuation of spiritual energy. Could it be that Maple Leaf Manor's alchemist Lingtian is refining pills? This spiritual energy fluctuation, could it be that he is refining a Tier 5 medicinal pill? It should be a Tier 5 pill. I was looking at the 1,000-year-old herbs I collected a few days ago. It must be a Tier 5 pill. Some of the warriors who were closer to Maple Leaf Villa were astonished. They had also guessed that Li Lingtian was refining a Tier 5 pill. Meanwhile, Li Lingtian was in the courtyard. His divine consciousness was locked onto the elixir cauldron, as he observed the changes inside. The medicinal liquid in the pill cauldron gradually solidified, and a huge amount of spiritual energy surrounded the courtyard. It was at this moment that Li Lingtian's hands began to move. Finally, he cast a huge spell and an explosion appeared in the air. Boom! A shocking pillar of light shot into the sky, straight into the endless sky, Chapter 222 Chapter 222 Spirit Alchemist 1 Chapter 222 Spirit Alchemist 1 This beam of light did not have any power at all. It exploded into a halo in the air. At the same time, an endless stream of spirit chi rushed down from the sky and finally entered the courtyard. Li Lingtian guided it with one hand and concentrated spirit chi entered the crucible. The medicinal liquid continued to be nourished by the spiritual energy. The medicinal liquid that slowly solidified absorbed the spiritual energy. Immediately, the pill cauldron also rapidly absorbed the shocking spiritual energy. In the Soliciting Moon Mountains, many warriors from the clans and sects saw the pillar of light. In the Soliciting Moon Mountains there were a few alchemists. When alchemists refined 5th grade pills, spirit infusion would occur. They also knew that this pillar of light was a spirit pill master refining a level 5 pill. However, what shocked them was that this pillar of light came from Maple Leaf Manor. Maple Leaf Manor was only a small 9th-rate family, but there was actually someone who refined a 5th grade medicinal pill. This was what shocked them. The light pillar lasted for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, the light pillar gradually disappeared. Li Lingtian's face was also filled with surprise because the spirit implantation had succeeded. Then he waved his hand in the cauldron, and the solidified medicinal liquid was divided into more than 40 portions. Then the more than 40 portions of medicinal liquid quickly formed into pills. Bang! With a crisp sound, a string of light and shadow burst out from the heaven and earth creation cauldron. The light and shadow were silver white and gave people a mysterious feeling. After the light shadow appeared, it kept spinning in the air, and the remaining dense spiritual energy in the air was continuously absorbed. A moment later, Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. He took out a jade bottle and sucked the light shadow into it. I finally refined the 5th grade soul restoring pill. Li Lingtian kept the pills and poured one out of the jade bottle. He carefully examined the pill in his hand. It was the size of a finger, and the entire pill was silver-white in color, emitting a faint halo. This time he refined a total of 47 pills. 47 soul-restoring pills. There was also a refreshing aura on the medicinal pill, giving people a comfortable feeling. Creak. With a soft sound, the wooden door opened and Li Lingtian appeared outside the courtyard. Hundreds of warriors were watching from the outside with envy and excitement on their faces. Tier 5 pill successfully refined. Li Lingtian said calmly. After he finished speaking, countless warriors cheered. A Tier 5 elixir was a spirit alchemist. In the past, they only knew that Li Lingtian had refined a Tier 4 advanced pill. They could not be sure that Li Lingtian was a spirit alchemist. Now that Li Lingtian had refined a Tier 5 pill in front of them, his identity as an alchemist could no longer be faked. With an alchemist in Maple Leaf Villa, the 10 great clans and 4 great sects would not dare to offend him. Yun Yaoyao and Yun Xiaoling were even more excited because they finally understood what it meant to successfully refine a 5th grade pill. It meant that Li Lingtian was a spirit alchemist and more importantly, Yun Yaoyao had the chance to remove the 19 absolute meridians. Congratulations, Sir Lingtian. Congratulations, Junior Brother Li. Congratulations, Junior Brother Li. Yun Xiaoling bowed at Li Lingtian. Although Li Lingtian was a disciple of Maple Leaf Manor, he was many times stronger than Yun Xiaoling in every aspect. In the past, Li Lingtian did not care about such formalities. However, as Li Lingtian was now an alchemist, Yun Xiaoling would not be rude no matter how rude he was. Following that, Yun Yaoyao greeted Li Lingtian with a bow of congratulations. The other warrior disciples also congratulated Li Lingtian. In the end, Yun Xiaoling ordered all the disciples to retreat. He then looked at Li Lingtian and instructed the disciples below to prepare a celebratory feast. Seeing that Li Lingtian did not object, he instructed the disciples to invite all the factions and sects in the Soliciting Moon Mountains. All the disciples were extremely excited. Finally, Maple Leaf Manor could show off in the Soliciting Moon Mountains. All these years, they had been suppressed by the various families. Now that they had a spirit alchemist, they naturally had to show off. Li Lingtian did not object at all. Since he had become a spirit alchemist, it was time to celebrate. Moreover, Maple Leaf Manor could use this celebration to collect some wealth. The group entered the living room where they sat down casually. Due to Li Lingtian's special status, seating was a matter of particular importance. It would not be rude to sit down casually. The living room was damaged last time, but a new living room was built in less than 2 days. In the living room were a few warrior kings, Yun Yao, Yun Bing, and Xingling. They were Li Lingtian's friends and were the closest to him, so they were allowed to be more casual. Congratulations to Sir Lingtian for refining a grade 5 medicinal pill. After they sat down, Yun Xiaoling congratulated them once again with a smile on his face. The rest of the people congratulated him once again. Furthermore, they understood why Li Lingtian did not object to the celebration. Pill refiners liked peace and quiet, not fame and fortune. Holding a celebration now was also for the Maple Leaf Manor to plunder wealth. The Maple Leaf Manor was really too poor. This is a level 5 soul recovery pill. In a few days, Yao Yao will follow me to cultivate another cultivation technique. That way, I can control the 19 terminal meridians in her body. Li Lingtian tossed a pill in his hand toward Yun Tianling. The pill streaked across the air and left behind a fresh medicinal fragrance. Yun Xiaoling and Yun Yaoyao were overjoyed. In a few days they would be able to remove the 19 absolute meridians. His heart also became much more relaxed. He carefully examined the silver pill in his hand. The mysterious halo on it was fascinating. Tier 5 high-grade soul recovery pill. Could it be a divine restoration pill that can restore a warrior's cultivation base? Yun Xiaoling did not pay much attention to Li Lingtian's words. However, when he saw the pill, he was immediately shocked when he recalled that Li Lingtian had mentioned the spirit-restoring pill. These were all legendary magical medicinal pills. He had naturally heard of them in legends, but he had never seen them in person. That's right. It's a Tier 5 soul-restoring pill. One got this pill formula from a disciple of Maple Leaf Manor. I'll give this spirit stone to him when the time comes. Li Lingtian took out some spiritual stones. There was a total of 200,000 lower spiritual stones. He did not want to take advantage of his disciples. Since he had already refined the soul-restoring pill, he naturally couldn't lose out to his own disciples. If it was an outsider, he wouldn't care at all. Moreover, he was about to recover his cultivation now, so he did not have to worry about anything else. This is Sir Lingtian's luck. Only when this pill formula falls into Sir Lingtian's hands can it display its value. A martial king smiled and said seriously. However, he did not hold back and took the 200,000 low-grade spiritual stones. They knew Li Lingtian's personality well, and naturally would not stand on ceremony in front of him. After that, the few of them discussed the matter of the celebration. Yun Xiaoling would be the host. At that time they only needed to show up. After the discussion, Li Lingtian returned to his courtyard. He was trying to stabilize his current cultivation so that he could withstand the might of the restoring god pill. Yun Yaoyao followed Li Lingtian and moved into his courtyard. Li Lingtian imparted an ice attribute cultivation technique to Yun Yaoyao, so that he could fully control her body. There was another problem. Yun Yaoyao's 9 absolute meridians were also helpful to him. This was because the 9 absolute meridians were of the extreme yin type, and they were born with the attribute of ice. It was a great help to his ice soul martial soul. Yaoyao, cultivate this technique. You don't need to cultivate the previous techniques. After you remove the constitution of the 9 absolute meridians, you can also cultivate this cultivation method. At that time you can quickly increase your cultivation. Li Lingtian replied earnestly. After giving some instructions, he returned to his room to rest. Pill refinement was a very tiring job, and it was even more so for a grade 5 pill. It required the alchemist to devote all his heart and soul into it. Li Lingtian was sound asleep in his room. He did not need to care about the things happening outside. Outside, the countless families and factions in the Soliciting Moon Mountains were all shocked. Another alchemist had appeared in the Soliciting Moon Mountains. This was also the 6th alchemist in the Soliciting Moon Mountains. The appearance of an alchemist meant that the cultivators of the Soliciting Moon Mountains would be able to obtain more pills for their cultivation. Moreover, those small forces were even more expectant because Maple Leaf Manor was also a small force. There were only spirit alchemists in the big forces. Naturally, the pills were also controlled by spirit alchemists and big families. The price of pills was very high, and high-grade pills were rarely circulated. Controlling pills meant controlling resources. This was the core wealth of a family and sect. I heard that a spirit alchemist has appeared in Maple Leaf Manor. Is that true? Of course it's true. We saw the spirit infusion of a grade 5 pill with our own eyes that day. At that time a shocking amount of spiritual energy rushed into the sky, and colorful clouds floated in the sky. A spirit pill master has appeared in Maple Leaf Manor. It won't be long before Maple Leaf Manor becomes a big force. I heard that the Maple Leaf Manor celebration is in 3 days. I wonder who has been invited. Countless cultivators of the Soliciting Moon Mountain range were discussing among themselves. Not many people had seen the appearance of a spirit alchemist in Maple Leaf Manor. Because the Soliciting Moon Mountains was too big, the spiritual energy of the spirit infusion could not be seen within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. However, the news had spread throughout the Soliciting Moon Mountains, and it had shaken them. 3 days was a long period of time for ordinary martial artists, but for high-level martial artists it was just a blink of an eye. One meditation and cultivation would take a few days. However, in the past few days, countless martial artists in the Soliciting Moon Mountains did not cultivate because many martial artists had been invited. However, the invited warriors were all famous figures in the Soliciting Moon Mountain range. It was either the head of a family or the sect leader of a sect. Even if it was a small force, there would be a person in charge who was invited. The 10 great families and the 4 great sects were no exception. Every force received an invitation. Whether they came or not was the other party's business, but the invitation card had to be handed over to every force. The status of an alchemist was not lower than a martial royal realm expert. In fact, the status of an alchemist was even higher than a martial royal realm expert. Even a martial supreme would not easily offend an alchemist. This was because the pills they used to increase their cultivation had to be refined by spirit alchemists. Chapter 223 Chapter 223 Celebration 1 Chapter 223 Celebration 1 In just 3 days, Maple Leaf Manor had settled the matters of the celebration. The entire Maple Leaf Manor was decorated with lanterns and streamers. All the disciples had proud expressions on their faces. In the past, they had to look at the other forces. Now it was finally the time for Maple Leaf Manor to hold their heads high. The manor had built a simple square within a radius of 10 miles to receive the martial artists who came. On the day of the celebration, all the disciples began to get busy, welcoming the martial artists who came or busy drinking. Although these martial artists did not necessarily have to drink here, the villa had to do everything. On that day, countless martial kings, martial grandmasters, and even martial emperors came. Countless martial kings and martial grandmasters, as well as more than a dozen martial emperors, made countless manor disciples extremely excited. It was very difficult to see a martial arts grandmaster in the manor. A martial emperor was not something that could be dreamed of in a place like Maple Leaf Manor. However, on this day, many martial arts grandmasters and martial emperors came to Maple Leaf Manor. The 10 great families and 4 great sects sent martial emperor-level elders to congratulate them. There were countless treasures, precious medicinal herbs, rare materials, and even top-grade spirit stones. 2 hours passed. The entire square was filled with martial kings, martial arts grandmasters, and martial emperors. After these experts met, they naturally greeted each other and tried to build a relationship. He roughly estimated that there were at least 8,000 martial artists who came here. Such a lineup, even the birthday of the 10 great clans' patriarchs would not have such a grand display. Everyone, welcome to the Maple Leaf Manor. You have brought light to the humble Maple Leaf Manor. On a temporary high platform in the middle of the square, Yun Xiaoling said loudly. His expression was calm, but his heart was thumping non-stop. As a martial king, he had never seen such a big scene before. There were martial kings, martial grandmasters, and martial emperors here. Moreover, these experts had all been invited. Although it was not for the sake of Maple Leaf Villa, Li Lingtian's presence at Maple Leaf Villa represented Maple Leaf Villa. Today is Lord Ling Tian's celebration, the celebration of becoming a spirit pill master. Please welcome Lord Ling Tian. Yun Xiaoling suppressed his heartbeat and greeted Li Lingtian briefly before pushing him forward. Li Lingtian was in the courtyard, but his divine consciousness had locked onto the entire plaza. These warriors were powerful. He did not expect that the soliciting Moon Mountains alone would have so many powerful powerhouses. These experts were only a part of the soliciting Moon Mountain range, but even this part was equivalent to the experts of the Azure continent. If the entire soliciting Moon Mountain range were to come here, even all the experts in Green Island would not be able to compare to this place. Seeing Yun Xiaoling's reaction, he felt a little amused. It was indeed difficult for a martial king to face so many experts. Then, he walked out unhurriedly and arrived at the steps under everyone's gaze. I'm Li Lingtian. Welcome everyone. It's truly my honor. I don't know how to speak. Everyone, just do whatever you want. Li Lingtian smiled and said a few simple words as a greeting to the powerhouses. However, in the square, countless warriors were stunned. This young man without any cultivation, could he be an alchemist? Even if Li Lingtian had told them, they would not have believed it. This young man did not hide his appearance because of his cultivation level. He was only 17 or 18 years old. Oh. As long as one paid close attention to a martial artist's true age, one would be able to tell. This young man was not even 18 years old. If this young man was really an alchemist, then it was not too heaven-defying. A 17 or 18-year-old alchemist with such powerful alchemy skills, his future was boundless. Congratulations to Sir Ling Tian for becoming a spirit pill master. Although they didn't dare to believe it, they didn't dare to be rude. If this young man was a real spirit pill master, they would be offending him if they suspected him. They naturally wouldn't do such a stupid thing. This is the Tier 5 soul restoring pill that one refined. One believed that everyone has heard of the soul restoring pill. Everyone take a look at this pill. Li Lingtian's smile remained on his face. He could naturally tell that these warriors were suspicious of his identity. He used his soul consciousness and took out a jade bottle. A pill flew into the air and landed in front of a martial emperor. Zhou Ping took the pill and sniffed it. His spirit was immediately roused. His eyes carefully sized up the pill. They had seen a lot of Tier 5 pills, but they had never seen the legendary soul restoring pill. The soul restoring pill was definitely the most precious existence among the 5th grade medicinal pills. Its effects were heaven-defying. This young man actually said that he was refining a soul restoring pill. Naturally, he was excited and shocked. All the martial artists put down the wine cups in their hands and looked at Zhou Ping, wondering how the medicinal pill was. Tier 5 high-grade medicinal pill, the soul restoring pill. That's right. A genuine Tier 5 high-rank soul restoring pill. Zhou Ping looked at it for a while, and the expression on his face kept changing. He didn't believe it at first, but after careful inspection, he had no choice but to believe it. He then waved his hand and shot a pill at a martial emperor from the Chan family. It was not up to one person to decide. These people would naturally be curious. It was not bad for everyone to taste it. He was the only one who was surprised. It really is a soul-restoring pill. A Tier 5 soul-restoring pill of high quality. Ling Tian Spirit Alchemist is truly a genius. To be able to concoct a Tier 5 soul-restoring pill of high quality at such a young age, it's truly the fortune of our soliciting Moon Mountain range. 11. The Chan clan's martial emperor Chan Haomin was also carefully examining the pills. He had another identity, and that was a spirit alchemist. He was one of the 5 great alchemists of the soliciting Moon Mountain range, and he was also the one with the most profound cultivation among the alchemists. Since he had spoken, no one doubted him. The other 4 alchemists began to examine the pill. The aura on the pill was identical to Li Lingtian's. In other words, the pill was refined by Li Lingtian. A 17 or 18-year-old youth concocting a 5th grade high-grade soul-restoring pill. No one wasn't shocked. Even the 5 alchemists present were filled with admiration. They knew how powerful alchemy was. It was difficult to improve the quality of a pill even in their lifetime. Seeing the 5 spirit alchemists being so polite to Li Lingtian, all the powerhouses were shocked. They were even more respectful toward Li Lingtian. Haha, now that we have Sir Lingtian, we can have more exchanges on alchemy techniques and bring the alchemy Dao to greater heights. Falling Star Spirit Alchemist said loudly. Such a genius pill refiner had a boundless future. If he could make more friends now, it might be helpful to his pill Dao in the future. That's right. Our soliciting Moon Mountain range has always been looked down upon by the other forces. However, we have 5 spirit alchemists here, so we're able to hold our ground. Now that we have Sir Lingtian, we're even more stable. Your Excellency Lingtian's alchemy Dao is also something I admire greatly. I hope that Your Excellency Lingtian can give me more pointers in the future. The only alchemist who wasn't from a clan or sect, Alchemist Nanming, also said loudly. His tone was actually much lower. It was not hard to understand. The other alchemists had their own clans and sects, but he did not. Li Lingtian was only an alchemist from a small faction, so he naturally had to stand aside. In an instant, countless powerhouses and alchemists greeted Li Lingtian with their congratulations. The scene was extremely lively. Li Lingtian greeted the powerhouses for a while before he left the plaza and returned to his courtyard. He usually didn't like such a scene. What he liked was to cultivate quietly with beautiful women by his side. This was the life he really wanted. Naturally, Yunyaoyao didn't go to that scene. Instead, she cultivated in the courtyard. Oh, junior brother, you're back. Why don't you like that place? She asked curiously when she saw Li Lingtian return. One don't like places that are too crowded. Besides, there are other sceneries here. I prefer other sceneries, hehe. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he chuckled. Yunyaoyao was stunned for a moment before she understood what he meant and blushed. Junior brother Li is getting more and more glib. Yunyaoyao turned her head and whispered as she pretended to ignore Li Lingtian. However, she was curious when she realized that Li Lingtian was not speaking. She turned around and realized that Li Lingtian had been cultivating since a long time ago. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. Then, she sat in the courtyard and rested her chin on her hand. No one knew what she was thinking about. Her face turned red with a wave of her hand, and then she smiled. Li Lingtian was still focused on his cultivation, as he would be recovering his cultivation base in a few days. His life would not be so peaceful after he recovered his cultivation base. He had always been like this, and there was always a lot of trouble. The celebration lasted for 5 hours before the powerhouses dispersed. Some powerhouses even left invitations for Li Lingtian to visit their clans and sections. It was even more so for the few spirit alchemists. At this level, spirit alchemists had very few people to communicate with. They communicated with each other every day and understood each other very well. If there was a new spirit alchemist, perhaps he would have a different understanding of alchemy, and it would be of great help to the improvement of alchemy. Yun Xiaoling had gradually gotten used to these things. His heart was already numb. In front of these experts he was no longer so flustered. He thought to himself that under such circumstances, even a timid person would become bolder. After all the experts had left, Yun Xiaoling ordered his disciples to clean up the square. However, he returned to his room and saw the countless wealth and medicinal herbs in the room. His face was filled with excitement. When had he ever seen so much wealth? This wealth was not something that a maple leaf manor could possess. Just this wealth alone could build a large faction. However, despite his excitement, he did not forget that the wealth belonged to Li Lingtian. It was a gift from the powerhouses. With Maple Leaf Villa, even if they invited the powerhouses, they would not come to Maple Leaf Villa, let alone give him gifts. Chapter 224 Chapter 224 9 Terminal Meridians. Chapter 224 9 Terminal Meridians. Looking at the wealth, the smile on Yun Xiaoling's face changed. He had no intention of touching this wealth. Instead, they gathered all the wealth and sent it to Li Lingtian's courtyard. However, Li Lingtian's divine perception swept through the storage pouch and left behind all the herbs and 5 supreme-grade spirit stones. The other items and wealth were left to Yun Xiaoling to handle. He did not care about these wealth at all. Moreover, these experts were all old foxes. Naturally, they would not take out any treasures. At most, they would only take out some 10,000-year-old medicinal herbs. He naturally had to keep the medicinal herbs. As an alchemist, he could not give up the medicinal herbs to others. Other than taking the medicinal herbs and a few top-grade spirit stones, he did not look at anything else. 1 foot 11 inches sell this wealth into spirit stones. 1 foot 11 inches take care of the Maple Leaf Manor, and change the cultivation resources for the disciples. Li Lingtian said seriously. He was in Maple Leaf Villa and naturally would not see it as shabby. As the saying goes, once a person attains the Tao, chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. He was already a spirit pill master now. If the disciples below were still so shabby, it would inevitably be a little ugly. Thank you, Sir Lingtian. Yun Xiaoling didn't say much. He had taken out so much wealth so easily, so what was there to be grateful about? He could only express his gratitude to Li Lingtian on behalf of the Maple Leaf Villa disciples. Li Lingtian's days were not peaceful anymore. From time to time there would be a visit from a superpower house or a spirit alchemist. He could only meditate and cultivate at night, practicing his skills and comprehending his cultivation techniques. Now that he had reached the peak of a rank 1 martial king, he was relieved. As long as he found an opportunity, he could use the soul restoration pill to recover his martial arts grandmaster realm. As the days passed, Maple Leaf Manor grew stronger and stronger. Although it was not on the same level as the major clans and factions with Li Lingtian as an alchemist, its status was on par with the 10 great clans. The disciples below had spiritual stones to cultivate. They would usually seek Li Lingtian's help to refine the medicinal herbs they needed. This way their cultivation progress was extremely fast. On this day, Li Lingtian had sorted out his emotions. It was time for him to recover his state. Moreover, today was also the day Yun Yaoyao removed her 9 absolute meridians. Countless magical formations were enshrouded in Maple Leaf Villa. Li Lingtian's courtyard was even protected by more than a dozen formations. Even if a martial honor came, they would be able to withstand it. As a holy array master, he would never insult this reputation. Although he had not reached the realm of a holy array master, the divine array diagram could improve his array Dao countless times. Many warriors were shocked when they saw the defensive array of Maple Leaf Manor. Generally speaking, only supersects and big families had defensive arrays. Moreover, Jingying's consumption of a defensive array was not something that a small family could afford. He did not expect Maple Leaf Manor to have a defensive array. Moreover, this defensive array had appeared overnight. Such speed was something that only those super array masters could achieve, or use array flags. The disciples of the Maple Leaf Manor were also in the array. No one went out. Li Lingtian's courtyard was crowded with warriors. Yun Yaoyao walked into the courtyard with a look of excitement and worry. He used to cultivate and play here every day, but today he felt a sense of heaviness and hope. The higher the hope, the greater the disappointment. However, she quickly regained her composure because she believed in Li Lingtian. Even if he failed, it would just be an experiment. When she arrived at the courtyard, she realized that Li Lingtian was not there. All the arrays were shut down the moment she entered. "Come in." Li Lingtian's voice rang out in the room. Yun Yaoyao was stunned when she heard his voice. Could it be? Although they were close, she had never entered Li Lingtian's room before. Now that Li Lingtian had called her in, she could not help but blush. Then he hesitated for a moment and carefully walked towards the room. Just as he reached the door, the wooden door swung open. Li Lingtian looked at Yun Yaoyao with a smile. "Is Yaoyao sis afraid that I'll eat you?" Li Lingtian looked at Yun Yaoyao with a harmless smile. Yun Yaoyao's face turned even redder. It turned out that her junior brother had already seen her movements. However, after Li Lingtian said that, she was no longer worried and relaxed. I'm not afraid." When Yun Yaoyao saw Li Lingtian's face, she puffed out her chest and raised her fist as if she was showing off. She was extremely adorable and her voluptuous chest made Li Lingtian's heart skip a beat. Were all the beauties in this world so domineering? Tang Ziming was like this and now Yun Yaoyao was like this. He wasn't very close to Nangong Mingyue, but he had found that the eldest princess was also full and powerful. Although he hadn't come into contact with Tang Qingyue and Shangguan Linger much, he had come into contact with them before. Naturally, he realized that they were both very strong. Thinking of this, he really felt a wave of sadness for those women in his previous life. 99% of them were stunted. Alright, you should cultivate for a day first to stabilize the ice attribute secret. Art 1 taught you so that one can grasp the extent of your cultivation. After tomorrow, your 19 absolute meridians will be ready. Li Lingtian changed the topic and revealed a serious expression. He was only so focused when he was refining pills. Am I going to cultivate here? Yun Yaoyao looked at Li Lingtian's room and pointed at it. She asked softly with a restrained expression on her face. Of course, I have to grasp the movement of your meridians. Otherwise, not only will one not be able to remove the 19 absolute meridians, but your 19 absolute meridians will also become even more severe. I will also suffer a backlash. Li Lingtian sat cross-legged on the bed after he finished speaking and began meditating. Yun Yaoyao was stunned. Li Lingtian's words made her feel a sense of danger. She was in danger. Although Li Lingtian did not explain it clearly, she knew that she would not have much time left. On the other hand, she was worried about Li Lingtian. She did not care if she was dead or alive because her 19 absolute meridians only had 2 years to live. However, Li Lingtian was a prodigy powerhouse. If she implicated him, she would not feel at ease even if she died. Yaoyao will definitely persevere. She won't let junior brother be implicated. She secretly encouraged herself, but her heart ached. It seemed that her junior brother said it easily, but she knew how much risk her junior brother had to take. Yun Yaoyao looked around the room. There was no other place for her to meditate, so she could only sit beside Li Lingtian. She felt a burst of shyness and warmth in her heart. She was 18 years old this year and had never interacted with a man. Now, she was alone in the same room with a man and was even sitting on the same bed. This kind of shyness was very much liked because the man beside him was his junior brother, an omnipotent expert who was willing to take risks for him. In the divine martial continent, kinship could not be compared to cultivation. Warriors often betrayed their loved ones for cultivation and strength. It was impossible for him to take the risk to save someone. However, this junior brother of his had only known each other for a few months, and they were like friends who had known each other since childhood. Focus on your cultivation and don't be distracted. If anything happens, the two of us will have to wait for our next life. Yao Yao, are you thinking of marrying me after your 9 meridians recover? With Li Lingtian's cultivation base, he could naturally sense the uneasiness in Yun Yao Yao's heart. Hence he spoke before he chuckled. Sitting with such a beauty was indeed a form of torture and enjoyment. If you wish. However, one can consider it. Yun Yao Yao was taken aback as her face flushed red. She did not expect Li Lingtian to say something like that. Although she could tell that Li Lingtian was joking, her heart was still trembling. Her instinctive restraint made her blush, but in the end, she spoke in a soft voice so that only she could hear it. However, in her shyness, she clearly heard her junior brother sigh beside her. That sigh was a kind of longing and longing. A longing and longing that came from the depths of her heart. Yun Yao Yao turned to look at her junior brother, but could only see Li Lingtian's calm expression. He had already entered the state of emptiness. In his heart he constantly imagined whether his junior brother was missing his parents, his relatives, his fellow sect members, or the person he liked. What was the person he liked like? The girl that he liked must be a peerless beauty that shocked the world. After letting his imagination run wild for a long time, Li Lingtian calmed himself down. He continued to cultivate to stabilize his realm so that he could remove Yun Yao Yao's 9 terminated meridians. The 9 absolute meridians that others could not remove were nothing in front of him. He was a martial artist with the flaming sacred body, ice soul martial soul, and the 5 elements perfection. The 9 absolute meridians were nothing compared to these heaven-defying existences. However, he did not know that the 9 absolute meridians could not do anything to martial kings, martial grandmasters, or even martial emperors. However, martial honors could remove them. With the help of pills, even a level 8 or level 9 martial emperor could remove the 9 terminated meridians. There were many level 8 or level 9 martial emperors in the soliciting Moon Mountains, so why hadn't Yun Yao Yao's 9 terminated meridians been removed? Now he could not understand these things, nor could he find the truth. At this point, he could only help Yun Yao Yao remove her 9 terminal meridians. If he missed this opportunity, Yun Yao Yao's life would be very short. He had to take risks for what he needed and to repay his kindness. Time passed quickly. The next day, Li Lingtian opened his eyes and looked at Yun Yao Yao with a smile. On this day, he had also grasped the rhythm of Yun Yao Yao's meridians. Yao Yao, let's start. Li Lingtian said softly with a serious and focused expression. Junior brother, senior sister is a little worried. If there's any danger, you have to give up immediately. Don't worry about me. Yun Yao Yao did not have much time to cultivate. She spent most of her time thinking about other things. Before she woke up, she had already decided that it did not matter if she lived or died. She must not implicate Li Lingtian. Chapter 225 Chapter 225 Ancient Seal. Chapter 225 Ancient Seal. Yao Yao doesn't believe me. Li Lingtian was taken aback, but his heart warmed up. Yun Yao Yao was still considerate of others at a time like this. It was not a waste for him to take action. Such a girl could not be found anywhere in the divine martial continent where the strong were respected. Not to mention this world, even in his previous life it was still a dream, because the cruelty of the world had already made everyone lose their nature. Survival of the fittest was already deeply rooted. With a smile on his face, he asked calmly as he looked at Yun Yao Yao seriously. This was the first time Li Lingtian had looked at this girl so seriously since they met a few months ago. Her exquisite face, lively eyes, and fair skin were enough to make people feel ecstasy. Dressed in a light pink shirt, she looked like a fairy who didn't eat fireworks. Her chest was full and powerful. No, I naturally believe in your ability. I'm just saying what if. If senior sister's 19 absolute meridians recover, then she will marry junior brother. Yun Yaoyao said seriously. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's when she reached the end of her sentence. If it were not for Li Lingqian's profound cultivation base, he would not have heard her whisper. By the time Yun Yaoyao finished speaking, her face was already flushed red. She wished she could find a hole to hide in. Don't think too much. Yaoyao sis, I need your cooperation to help you touch the 19 absolute meridian. There was a smile on Li Lingqian's face that gave off an evil vibe. Fortunately, Yun Yaoyao did not look at his face, or she would have mistaken him for a pervert. Of course. Yun Yaoyao agreed without hesitation. She finally had hope for her 19 terminal meridians, so she naturally had to cooperate with others. Let's begin. Senior sister, you have to take off your clothes. No matter how thick-skinned Li Lingtian was, he still felt awkward. Asking a peerless beauty to take off her clothes in front of him was a joke. What? Junior brother, you're a bad guy. Don't make fun of senior sister. Yun Yaoyao's heart skipped a beat. She was so embarrassed that she could not hide her shame. She did not reject Li Lingtian, but she was grateful to him. She could even marry this junior brother in front of her. However, she had never thought of taking off her clothes in front of him at this time. Even if she married him, she would be too embarrassed to take off her clothes in front of him. However, she believed in her junior brother's character. He must be joking to make her happy. Senior sister, this little brother is being presumptuous. Because to remove your 19 absolute meridians, you have to relax completely, and let me control your meridians. If we're not careful, we'll be safe. Do you think I'm a bad person? Li Lingtian replied in a serious tone as the smile on his face vanished. With a wave of his hand, a formation enveloped the entire room. He activated his divine dragon ring and took out a thin veil. The veil separated the room while he retreated to the side. Xiaobai, you stand guard outside. Bai Qing, Fei Long and Multicolor, the three of you stand guard outside the courtyard. Kill any outsiders who enter. Li Lingtian said seriously after he was done with everything. He had a bad feeling that he had never felt before. However, he knew that something was about to happen. He just didn't know. At this critical moment, such a sign was definitely not a good thing. At this point, there was no turning back. What was meant to come would come. He had to return to the martial ancestor realm, and Yun Yaoyao had to remove her 19 terminated meridians. He could hide for a while, but he couldn't hide forever. Little White nodded. It was telepathically connected to Li Lingtian, so it could sense what Li Lingtian sensed. Then he left the room and squatted outside the room. Although it was just a small rabbit now, even a martial emperor might not be its match if it wanted to fight. The multicolored beast, the silver-winged flying dragon, and the jade-eyed beast could also reduce their bodies to the smallest size, only 1 meter in size. Yun Yaoyao was stunned by Li Lingtian's actions. Waves surged in his heart. Was this his junior brother's method? However, a few demon beasts without cultivation were not powerful. However, when she thought about it, it was this rabbit who had defeated a martial arts grandmaster with just a wave of pressure. Although she did not see it with her own eyes, she naturally believed what her father said. Junior brother. Turn around. Yun Yaoyao's heart was still trembling. She still couldn't get over the thought of taking off her clothes in front of a man. A girl's chastity was always more important than anything else. However, when she saw the seriousness on Li Lingtian's face and his personality, she could only hold back her embarrassment. She glared fiercely at Li Lingtian as she spoke in a sweet voice. Li Lingtian chuckled inwardly. Isn't this just a cover-up? I'll have to see it when the time comes. However, he did not know that taking off his clothes in front of him was completely different from seeing it in the future. Turning around, he heard a rustling sound and the sound of a heartbeat. After a long time, Li Lingtian slowly turned around. Instantly, he almost spat out blood and was completely stunned. Her white body was as smooth as jade, her shoulders were thin, and her hair was like a waterfall. She had long snow-white legs. He could be considered a top student, but when he saw this perfect beauty, he couldn't describe it. He could only say that she was extremely perfect. Although she was still wearing a tube top and a pair of pants, and her back was facing him. Even so, it still made his blood boil. Now he was somewhat regretful. Facing this peerless beauty like this, was he still in the mood to use his cultivation technique? His blood vessels surged and his entire body was about to burn. When he saw Yun Yaoyao, he sighed in his heart. There were no beauties in the 21st century. His heart was beating fast, and so was Yun Yaoyao's. After an unknown period of time, Li Lingtian finally realized what was going on. His heart was pounding through the thin veil. This veil was completely transparent, so it was useless even if it was separated from him. On the contrary, it gave people a hazy and beautiful temptation. Junior brother. Yun Yaoyao carefully turned around and crossed her snow-white hands. Her face was flushed red. After touching the clothes, the fullness of her chest became even more prominent. A tube top could not completely cover that snow-white peak. This time Li Lingtian almost died. Hush! Perfect! Li Lingtian exhaled and said 2 words softly before he fell silent. Even if they were with Tang Zimeng, they would only hold hands and be intimate with each other. They had never seen such a scene. Yun Yaoyao felt extremely sweet when she heard Li Lingtian's praise. She knew that she was beautiful, but she felt even sweeter when she was praised. Furthermore, it was Li Lingtian who praised her. Li Lingtian then sat cross-legged and circulated his ice soul martial soul to calm his mind. Yun Yaoyao sat cross-legged facing Li Lingtian, but she dared not look at him. The small hand in front of her chest was still not put down. How could a small hand cover it? It's starting. Don't be distracted. After a few minutes, Li Lingtian finally calmed down. This was torture that he had never experienced before. If he didn't calm down, he and Yun Yaoyao would suffer a backlash. It wasn't hard to imagine what would happen to them. However, facing such a peerless beauty, he could only complain bitterly. He wanted to say that the most painful time in the world was now. Yes. Yun Yaoyao nodded softly and opened her eyes. She slowly released her hand and circulated her magic art, quickly circulating the ice attribute cultivation art. However, it took Li Lingtian half an hour to make his move. It was only during this time that Yun Yaoyao slowly regained her composure. Swoosh swoosh. The 2 spells were cast, and a faint golden light shone on Yun Yaoyao's body. Heaven and Earth Reincarnation, 5 Elements Cycle. Heaven and Earth Holy Scripture, Heaven and Earth Reincarnation Art. Hurry! Li Lingtian's expression was serious and focused as he chanted the incantation continuously. His entire body was emitting a mysterious radiance. The power of the 5 elements wrapped around his entire body. Moreover, this power continued to fuse, forming a 5-colored light. Yun Yaoyao was shocked. This aura contained all 5 elements. Could it be that the 5 elements had been perfected? She didn't dare to imagine it. This was too terrifying because it was a legend from hundreds of millions of years ago. The strongest expert in the world had the attributes of the 5 elements at the peak. This junior brother in front of him was actually also at the peak of the 5 elements. Relax and keep your spirit. Li Lingtian's cold shout woke Yun Yaoyao up. Then a 5-colored ray of light entered Yu Yaoyao's glabella. Yun Yaoyao's body trembled violently, and a pained expression appeared on her face. But slowly, the 5-colored light wrapped around Yun Yaoyao, and the pain on her face lessened significantly. Li Lingtian's power of 5 elements quickly entered Yun Yaoyao's meridians. Yun Yaoyao's meridians and body were completely under Li Lingtian's control. Yun Yaoyao had no choice but to focus on her spirit and protect her sea of consciousness. Li Lingtian was in control of all her meridians. Finally, Li Lingtian's power of 5 elements and divine consciousness arrived at a cold and gloomy place. Yun Yaoyao's Dantian was also the location of her 9 yin terminal meridians. A cold aura continued to corrode Yun Yaoyao's body. If this continued, Yun Yaoyao would die in less than 2 years. There's a restriction. Li Lingtian nodded when he saw the cold yin qi in his Dantian. However, he was surprised to find that the cold yin qi was sealed. He was an array master and a powerful one at that. Naturally, he could sense the existence of this restriction. He felt more and more troubled. The 9 yin absolute meridian was already very dangerous when it was removed, and now there was a seal inside. To remove this seal, it would not be a matter of time. More importantly, this seal was an ancient seal. Ancient seal? Could it be? Li Lingtian's heart trembled at the thought of this, and his expression changed drastically. The ancient seal that appeared in Yun Yaoyao's body must have been sealed by an ancient mighty figure. In other words, it must have been sealed in her past life or even countless reincarnations. Yun Yaoyao had been sealed in her previous life, so this matter was even more troublesome. Chapter 226 Chapter 226 Recovering Cultivation. Chapter 226 Recovering Cultivation. He didn't expect that a 9 absolute meridian would have so many troubles. Since we've met, I don't care what seal you have. Break it for me. I'm not going to let you go, Li Lingtian said in his heart. A force was circulating in Yun Yaoyao's body, and a surge of true qi was protecting the yin qi to prevent any accidents from happening. Then, he withdrew his divine sense and waved his hand. The divine array diagram in the courtyard appeared in front of him. He cast a spell on the divine array diagram, and it instantly disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already in Yun Yaoyao's dantian. Li Lingtian's divine consciousness entered his dantian once again. As he looked at the seal of the cold yin qi, Li Lingtian activated the divine array diagram with his divine consciousness, and rays of obscure light flashed. After an unknown period of time, the light became more and more intense, covering the entire dantian. After everything was done, Li Lingtian felt as if he had just been scooped out of the tax. His entire body was drenched. This array formation had to protect Yun Yaoyao's dantian from being affected and break the seal on the cold air. Li Lingtian's heart was filled with killing intent at the thought of the seal. It was a vicious seal that was sealed in his dantian. If the seal was removed, his dantian would be destroyed. The 9 absolute meridian's constitution that destroyed the dantian would disappear when the owner died. The person who used the seal had also achieved his goal. He was torturing the person with the 9 terminal meridians, and he was also using this seal to torture Yun Yaoyao. She had to die at the age of 20. If she touched the seal, Yun Yaoyao would disappear forever. Yun Yaoyao held her spirit and body in Li Lingtian's hands. The circulation of her meridians was under Li Lingtian's control. However, her divine consciousness could see Li Lingtian's movements and the seal in her dantian. As long as she was not a fool, she would understand Li Lingtian's intentions for everything he had done. Her heart was beyond gratitude. Senior sister, this time it will depend on our luck. Death is also between you and me. Li Lingtian's face was filled with determination as he spoke in a soft voice. His divine consciousness flickered in Yun Yaoyao's dantian, as he cast a series of magic arts on the outside. The magic arts then entered her dantian through her meridians. In his dantian, the spell directly bombarded the ancient seal. A destructive explosion rang out in her body. However, it was soundless because it was inside Yun Yaoyao's dantian. At the instant of the explosion, the divine array diagram flashed with a dazzling light that protected his dantian. The seal was lifted, and a shocking cold aura instantly rushed out, starting to corrode Yun Yaoyao's meridians and body. Ice Soul Martial Soul. Li Lingtian shouted softly as he activated his Ice Soul Martial Soul. Devouring Light. After the Ice Soul Martial Spirit was activated, his entire body became extremely cold. He had obtained the Devouring Light from the ancient demon's memories in the Devil Canyon. However, he didn't understand. Before he obtained the ancient devil's memories, he had already possessed a trace of devouring ability. This devouring ability was definitely something he had before he entered the Devil Canyon. He did not know when he had obtained the devouring power. The only explanation was that he had been injured after fighting Beichen Wuyo, and mutated after obtaining the blood essence of the 3 women. The devouring light was unleashed, and the yin energy in Yun Yaoyao's body was quickly devoured. The cold yin qi that was devoured was quickly refined by the Ice Soul Martial Soul, forming a tiny crystal pearl in Li Lingtian's body. Yes. After an unknown period of time, Yun Yaoyao's cold yin qi was completely devoured. Yun Yaoyao's consciousness wavered and only recovered slightly when Li Lingtian retracted his divine perception and magic art. His meridians and body could also be controlled by himself. The cold yin qi in his 9 absolute meridians was removed, and the true qi in his meridians circulated rapidly. Li Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and powerless. He had just used the power of 5 elements in devouring light on purpose. After Yun Yaoyao's 9 terminal meridians were removed, he relaxed and could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His body also leaned forward and lay weakly on the bed. However, a faint smile appeared on his face. This smile was the joy of his success. Junior brother. Junior brother. Yun Yaoyao came over when Li Lingtian collapsed and saw him lying down in front of her. His pale face was unbearable. Without any hesitation, she lifted Li Lingtian's head as tears rolled down her face. She had completely forgotten that she was only wearing a tube top and Li Lingtian's head was resting on her chest. A comforting smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face, telling Yun Yao not to worry. Feeling the warmth of her strong and soft breasts, Li Lingtian felt terrible. This feeling would be good if it continued like this forever. The entire scene was extremely ambiguous, but Yun Yaoyao was unaware of it. She was only worried about Li Lingtian's condition. Senior sister, you just removed the 9 absolute meridians. Hurry up and cultivate. This is an opportunity for cultivation. Li Lingtian said earnestly as he struggled to free himself from the pair of strong and plump peaks. If it was any other time, he wouldn't be so foolish. But now, Yun Yaoyao needed to cultivate, and he needed to refine the cold energy in his body. Yes. Yun Yaoyao waited until Li Lingtian had left before she realized what was happening to her. Her little face blushed again. However, he was relieved when he saw Li Lingtian meditating with his eyes closed. If his junior brother saw him in this state, he would surely die of shame. Li Lingtian closed his eyes and meditated. He circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation technique, and quickly refined the crystal pearl in his body. This was Yun Yaoyao's yin qi, which was extremely beneficial to his ice soul martial soul. An hour later, Yun Yaoyao was done with her cultivation. She smiled in excitement, and her cultivation had reached rank 1 martial king. She didn't dare to imagine or believe such a thing, but it happened to her. After he was done with his cultivation, he shyly put on his clothes and rested his chin on his hand as he carefully observed Li Lingtian's cultivation. Li Lingtian opened his eyes at the same time but ignored Yun Yaoyao. Instead, he took out 2 elixirs and gave one to Yun Yaoyao to stabilize her cultivation. He wanted her to use the elixirs to suppress the discomfort in her body to prevent the 9 terminal meridians from acting up again. After he was done, he threw a medicinal pill into his mouth and began to cultivate. The shocking medicinal power spread through his meridians like an atomic bomb. He circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation and circulated the medicinal strength. The medicinal strength slowly flowed through his meridians and finally entered his dantian. The energy in his dantian revolved once and slowly flowed out. It continued to circulate for a total of 10 major cycles before Li Lingtian's expression changed drastically. A shocking Li Lingtian quickly gathered. His original warrior king cultivation had changed at this moment. The Jinqi was so dense that it was almost tangible. Moreover, the Jinqi gradually formed a pearl. However, this time the pearl was not golden but 5-colored. Condensing the pill. Li Lingtian said excitedly. If he could condense his core at the warrior king realm, it meant that he would be able to recover to Tier 1 warrior ascendant. The power of the soul-restoring pill was indeed heaven-defying. However, what puzzled him was that the originally golden bead had now turned 5-colored. Seconds ticked by and after an unknown period of time, Yun Yaoyao finished cultivating once again. When she opened her eyes, a look of hope appeared on her face. Fortunately, Li Lingtian had given her the elixir. Otherwise, she would have suffered a real backlash. The 2 of them were cultivating in the room, but the outside world was in chaos. Yun Shaoling and the others waited anxiously outside Li Lingtian's courtyard. However, a day had passed and there was still no news from Li Lingtian and his wife. The rest of the disciples went back to rest, leaving only the 6 martial kings and Yun Shaoling to wait here. At noon the next day, the other disciples came to the courtyard again and advised Yun Shaoling to go back and rest. Yun Shaoling was worried about Li Lingtian and Yun Yaoyao, so he could only feel at ease after the 2 of them came out. However, at this moment, a voice sounded in the sky. Maple Leaf Villa, Li Lingtian, get out here. The voice was far away in the sky, and it was like thunder. The entire mountain peak where Maple Leaf Manor was located trembled. Yun Xiaoling and the others were shocked. Someone actually dared to call out Li Lingtian's name. Judging from his tone, it was obvious that he was here to cause Li Lingtian trouble. In the soliciting Moon Mountains, the sects and warriors who were slightly closer to Maple Leaf Manor heard it. They were all extremely curious, wondering who dared to offend the spirit alchemist. As soon as he finished speaking, 6 figures appeared in the air. They were extremely fast and arrived within 5 kilometers of Maple Leaf Manor in the blink of an eye. They floated in the air and looked down at Maple Leaf Manor. There were 2 white-haired elders, 3 middle-aged men, and 1 young man. None of the Maple Leaf Manor warriors could tell the cultivation strength of these 6 people. Hand over Li Lingtian or Maple Leaf Villa will be razed to the ground. The young man shouted angrily as if he had killed Li Lingtian's father. They looked at the martial artists in Maple Leaf Mountain with a sharp gaze. Their faces were full of disdain. They thought that Maple Leaf Mountain was powerful, but now it seemed that they were only martial kings and warrior spirits. This is Maple Leaf Manor. One wonder why you've come all the way here. Lingtian's spirit alchemist is currently cultivating in seclusion. If you're looking for him, now is not the time. Yun Xiaoling smiled bitterly in his heart. He thought that Li Lingtian's former enemy had come looking for him. It was a crucial moment for Li Lingtian to remove Yun Yaoyao's 9 terminated meridians, so he naturally could not disturb him. During this period of time, no one dared to provoke Li Lingtian due to his reputation as an alchemist in the soliciting Moon Mountains. Now that he had mentioned the word alchemist in his speech, he hoped that the other party would have some misgivings about alchemists. But to his disappointment, this young man didn't listen to him at all and ignored the existence of the spirit alchemist. One will count to 3. If you don't come out, Maple Leaf Manor will vanish into thin air. The young man shouted loudly, and the anger on his face became more and more intense. The middle-aged man and the old man beside him did not dare to say anything to the young man. It seemed that the 2 old men and the 3 middle-aged men were the young man's guards. Chapter 227 Chapter 227 Wind Moon Palace. Chapter 227 Wind Moon Palace. Sir, let's talk things out. The spirit alchemist is really cultivating. Why don't you wait for a while? When the time comes, the spirit alchemist will come out to meet you. I wonder what kind of grudge you have with the spirit alchemist. Yun Xiaoling cried out bitterly in his heart. He could not even tell the other party's cultivation base. He must be a martial emperor. A martial emperor could destroy Maple Leaf Manor with just one move. Moreover, the old man and middle-aged man behind him were even more powerful. How could Maple Leaf Manor resist them? You dare to snatch my woman? You're courting death. The young man said angrily, as if his wife had run away with someone else. Immediately there was an uproar below. Countless disciples could not help but laugh. So that was what happened. Junior brother Li was really bold. He even dared to snatch the woman of such a super expert. But junior brother Li had always been at Maple Leaf Manor. When would he go and snatch his woman? Moreover, senior sister Yunyao was so beautiful. Junior brother Li wouldn't go and snatch other women. Although he was afraid of this expert, this young man's words were too funny. 1, 2, 3. Shocking explosive fist. After the young man finished speaking, he felt regret. The expressions of the few guards beside him changed drastically. Why was this little master so unbridled? However, they did not dare to say anything. The young man quickly finished counting, and a shocking fist with destructive power smashed down. Yun Xiaoling and the others were shocked to death. The attack of a martial emperor was enough to destroy the world. What else could Maple Leaf Manor resist? Even if Li Lingtian was here, he would not be able to withstand it. This time it was really over. Even God couldn't save Maple Leaf Manor. However, at this moment, an earth-shattering roar came from the courtyard of Maple Leaf Manor. A silver light shot into the sky and collided with the young man's fist shadow. Rumble! With a loud explosion, 2 attacks exploded in the sky, and destructive forces flew everywhere. However, When Eugene arrived at the Maple Leaf Villa, a light shield appeared and covered the entire Maple Leaf Villa. The residual force was neutralized by the light shield like a breeze, and all the martial artists were stunned. Yun Shaoling was shocked. What kind of attack could withstand the attack of a martial emperor? What kind of formation could have such a powerful defense? All of this seemed to be an illusion, but he soon discovered that the light shield really existed. Moreover, he also saw the expressions of the 6 experts in the air changing continuously. Countless soliciting Moon Mountain Range warriors flew over and looked at Maple Leaf Manor from afar. They were all shocked to find that the defenses of Maple Leaf Manor were so strong. Heavenly Net Cloud Formation. Which expert is here? Please show yourself. Lan Tianxiang of the Wind Moon Palace is here to handle some matters. One of the 2 white-haired elders in the air was also shocked when he saw the array of Maple Leaf Manor. He could clearly see that this array formation was created at the last minute. However, to be able to create such an array formation at the last minute, it must be a super expert. Only those who had reached the realm of a holy array master would have such ability. Although the Wind Moon Palace was powerful, it was against the rules to come here. Moreover, the expert who had cast this array also made him feel threatened. Heavenly Net Cloud Formation? Isn't this a peerless heaven grade formation? Wind Moon Palace. Wind Moon Palace. The Wind Moon Palace, one of the 3 great sects of the Azure continent. For a moment, countless knowledgeable martial artists recognized that the Sky Net Cloud Formation was a peerless heaven-grade formation. Furthermore, the Wind Moon Palace was a legend of the Azure continent. The 3 great sects were also the forces that ruled the Azure continent. The 3 great sects of the Azure continent were existences that surpassed the 10 great clans of the Azure continent. These 3 sects were definitely the rulers of the Azure continent. The Wind Moon Palace, Queen's Palace, and House of Storms were known as the 3 great sects of the Azure continent. They had ruled the Azure continent for countless years, and no sect could shake them. It was said that 100,000 years ago, the 10 great clans of the Azure continent had joined forces to attack the Wind Moon Palace, but they had also suffered a crushing defeat. One could imagine how powerful the 3 great sects were. He did not expect the transcendental Wind Moon Palace to come to the soliciting Moon Mountains. Hearing the words Wind Moon Palace, Yun Shaoling was completely stunned. These 3 words numbed him like a curse. Who is this expert? 1 am Lan Tianxiang, and I am here to handle some matters. Please show yourself. Lan Tianxiang, as the great elder of the Windy Moon Palace's outer circle, was a 9th-level martial emperor. He was originally free and unfettered, but he never expected the little master to come to his territory. He was shocked when he heard that someone had stolen his woman. Who would dare to touch the woman of the young master of the Wind Moon Palace? Wasn't this courting death? Moreover, the person who stole little master's woman was in his territory. Lan Tianxiang was the highest manager of Moonrise City. If he didn't handle this matter well, he would lose his life. Hence, he brought his 4 subordinates to Moonrise Mountain Range with his young master, Prince Wind Spirit. He shouted twice but no one answered. Lan Tianxiang was embarrassed. Although he was a 9th-level martial emperor and was still a little unhappy with managing the city, he had the backing of the Wind Moon Palace. Even a martial honor would not dare to go against him. Now that he was ignored, he was furious. Who is this expert? If he doesn't show himself, then this Lan will be rude. Lan Tianxiang shouted again. He didn't dare to be too rude because there were still 2 other supreme existences in the Azure continent. There were also some hidden experts. He didn't want to fail miserably. The atmosphere was oppressive. Even countless martial artists who had come to watch the show felt that something was wrong. Maple Leaf Manor had been unusual recently. Now that they had provoked the Wind Moon Palace, could it be that there was really a super expert? Do it! Lan Tianxiang's expression grew increasingly unsightly. How could someone be so rude to him in his own territory? If this continued, how could he convince the masses? He waved his hand, signaling for his subordinates to attack. Lan Tianfu, Shangguanyu, and Green Moon City nodded. They circulated their genuine vitality, and the shocking pressure of a 7th-level martial emperor filled the space. With a wave of his hand, A shocking attack blasted down. 3 attacks tore through space and bombarded the light shield. Roar! 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 At this moment 3 roars sounded, and shocking demonic power soared into the sky. A silver figure rushed out. With a flap of its huge wings, 2 sharp gusts of wind welcomed the 2 attacks. The other huge jade-eyed beast also shot out, its claws clapping against the attack. The huge multicolored beast could not fly, and it was only at tier 4. It could only roar and cheer on the ground. Rumble! A series of earth-shattering explosions shook the Maple Leaf Manor. However, under the protection of the light shield, it was not directly destroyed. The 3 attacks were neutralized. The silver wing flying dragon floated in the air with a gentle breeze. Its huge wings flapped. Every time it flapped, it tore through the space. The jade-eyed beast was also floating in the air. Its huge body originally looked very heavy, but floating in the air like this felt nondescript. After reaching the 5th level, their strength was equivalent to a martial emperor. Although they were not a match for a 7th-level martial emperor, they could still resist for a while with the defense and attack of the demonic beasts. All the martial artists were shocked when they saw the powerful demonic beast in the sky. It was a level 8 5th stage silver wing flying dragon, and its entire body was covered with a shocking dragon aura. This dragon aura was extremely pure, and it was at level 8 5th stage. However, its strength had reached the peak of level 9 5th stage. Even a peak level 9 5th stage demonic beast was not its match, let alone in the air. He was definitely the king of the sky and the land. Dragons were the kings of the land. The silver wing flying dragon had the blood of dragons. In addition, Little White had given him the blood of the true dragon, which made it even more mutated. With wings, he was definitely a king in the air. The soliciting Moon Mountain Range used to look down on the forces and warriors of Maple Leaf Manor, but now they felt waves of fear. This was because Maple Leaf Manor had always been hiding super experts and terrifying demonic beasts. If Maple Leaf Manor was really angry in the past, there were simply not many families and sects that could resist. Just this silver wing flying dragon alone could sweep through some large and small factions. 3 terrifying demon beasts had appeared at once. It was really abnormal. All of a sudden, none of the martial artists dared to breathe loudly. Lan Tianxiang's expression turned solemn. A demon beast like the silver wing flying dragon could not be tamed at all. If it was tamed, its master would definitely be extremely powerful. There was another serious problem. He had shouted the name of the Wind Moon Palace, but he did not show himself. Moreover, he had ignored the Wind Moon Palace. Could it be that the hidden people were the experts of the other 2 sects? But the senior masters of the Queen's Palace or House of Storms are here. I'm sorry to disturb you. Please show yourself. Lan Tianxiang shouted loudly. If he were to retreat like this, he would lose his life in the future. Countless people in the Wind Moon Palace were eyeing his position as the manager. If he were to leave like this, he would definitely suffer. The Wind Spirit Prince didn't say anything else. He just looked at Lan Tianxiang coldly, implying that if he couldn't solve this problem, he would have to return to the Wind Moon Palace to receive his punishment. The atmosphere in Maple Leaf Villa was tense, but there was no sound at all. Yun Xiaoling and the others were completely stunned. He did not even have the qualifications to know about this matter. This was a matter between super sections. It was a matter between martial emperors, martial supremes, and even martial sovereigns. He could not imagine or understand it at all. On the other hand, Li Lingtian was cultivating in his room in the courtyard. He also discovered that there were experts outside. Everything outside was in his mind. This was the power of the array. However, Yun Yaoyao didn't know what was going on outside because the array formation had cut off all sound and everything else. Yun Yaoyao looked at Li Lingtian quietly. Her little face was neither flushed nor shy. He had just taken off his clothes in front of his junior brother, and he had seen everything. They were momentarily mesmerized by Li Lingtian's focus and seriousness. 5 elements return, Paragon. At that moment, Li Lingtian shouted softly as he continuously waved his hands to absorb the 5-colored radiance around him. Then an excited expression appeared on his face, and a smile appeared on his lips. This smile caused Yun Yaoyao's heart to tremble. In the past, he didn't notice that this junior brother of his was really a carefree and elegant youth. He was enough to make all the girls in the world fall for him. Chapter 228 Chapter 228 Wind Spirit Prince. Chapter 228 Wind Spirit Prince. Li Lingtian opened his eyes and looked at the dazed Yun Yaoyao with a puzzled expression. "Yaoyao sis." She called out softly, then stood up and stretched her body. "Yes. Junior brother, you're done." Yun Yaoyao was shocked and immediately woke up. A shy expression appeared on her face. "It's done." Li Lingtian smiled faintly with a confident look on his face. With the help of the soul-restoring pill, he had finally recovered from his injuries. Furthermore, with Yun Yaoyao's 9 terminal meridians, his ice soul martial soul had become even more powerful. After his cultivation was restored, he was able to advance to Tier 3 martial arts grandmaster in one fell swoop. This achievement made Li Lingtian extremely excited. When he was in Green Island, he was at the peak of a rank 1 martial arts grandmaster. Although his cultivation had disappeared after a few months, he had recovered his cultivation and actually broke through 2 ranks, becoming a rank 3 martial arts grandmaster. In this way, he had benefited from a disaster. His mental state had sublimated, his skills had improved, and his cultivation had also increased greatly. Rumble! At this moment, a shocking explosion sounded. Even though they were in the array formation, they felt the threat of destruction. Li Lingtian's expression was cold. He was courting death by attacking the array formation in such a manner. It seemed like the other party was going to fight to the death. What happened? Yun Yaoyao was shocked. She could not help but hold Li Lingtian's arm with a fearful look on her face. She did not expect that there was a difference between the two of them. Some blind people are just here to court death. Come, let's go out and take a look. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and retrieved the divine array diagram from Yun Yaoyao's body before returning it to his dantian. Outside the room, the entire Maple Leaf Manor was trembling. The array in the courtyard was also constantly being torn apart. Needless to say, the array that he had cast was able to destroy the array like this. One could only imagine how determined he was. Creak! With a soft sound, the wooden door to the courtyard opened, waking up Yun Tianling and the others who were still in shock. They were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian and Yun Yaoyao come out. However, when he thought of the 6 experts in the air, the joy on his face turned into fear. Sir Lingtian. Yaoyao. Yun Xiaoling bowed at Li Lingtian and looked at Li Lingtian and Yun Yaoyao expectantly. "It's done," Li Lingtian said lightly. Although it sounded easy, he was the only one who knew how dangerous the situation was. As he spoke, he watched the silver wing flying dragon in the sky being besieged by 2 9th-level martial emperors. The other 4 martial emperors kept bombarding the light shield of the array. The multicolored beast and the jade-eyed beast also kept blocking the attacks of the other party. Pa pa pa. It's so lively. It looks pretty good. A faint smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face as he extended his hand to applaud, as if he was encouraging the 6 warriors in the air. All the warriors were stunned by this scene. It seemed like Li Lingtian was watching the show as though he was watching a monkey's show. Murderous intent surged in his heart. He was actually so arrogant in front of him. "Junior, you are courting death." Lan Tianxiang clapped his hands when he saw an ordinary person without any cultivation. Wasn't he watching them perform? However, this array was difficult to break through in a short period of time. Moreover, there was the attack of the silver wing flying dragon. Even the 2 9th-level martial emperors couldn't kill the silver wing flying dragon, let alone kill it. Now he was just waiting for his subordinates to break through the array and kill everyone inside. Then she would find Li Lingtian. Otherwise, she would not let go of her little master. "You want to die." Haha, this young master has heard this sentence at least 800 times, but the person who said it can no longer speak. Li Lingtian laughed out loud. He had regained his warrior ascendant status and was now a tier 3 warrior ascendant. His strength had improved and he was brimming with confidence. Even if he couldn't defeat a 9th-level martial emperor, he could still escape. Moreover, the silver-winged flying dragon had entangled the rank 9 martial emperor, so he did not have to worry about the other experts at all. Who are you? I'm looking for Li Lingtian. The Wind Spirit Prince said loudly. Li Lingtian was amused by the one-track-minded Wind Spirit Prince. In his previous life he was a true idiot. You guys played with my demonic beast for half a day, and even this young master doesn't know who it is. Don't you feel ashamed? Li Lingtian's face cracked into a smile. He did not look like an ordinary person who was afraid of a destructive attack. On the contrary, he did not think much of the Windy Moon Palace's powerhouses. Are you Li Lingtian? The Wind Spirit Prince was stunned as he asked loudly. Since they were speaking in the array formation, their voices were very soft. The people outside could not hear Li Lingtian and Yun Xiaoling's conversation at all. The countless warriors in the distance were shocked to see Li Lingtian calmly facing the powerhouse's attacks. They did not know what Li Lingtian was capable of. That's right. One don't understand. Why did you come here instead of staying in the Wind Moon Palace? Li Lingtian looked at Prince Wind Spirit in confusion. This Tier 5 Martial Emperor Prince was also a top genius, but he was lacking in one aspect. So you're Li Lingtian. Stop. This prince wants to see just how powerful you are. You actually dare to snatch this prince's woman. The Wind Spirit Prince was stunned for a moment before he flew into a rage. He shouted at Li Lingtian to stop the other guards. A young man with no cultivation base and looks no better than him. Why would he dare to snatch his woman? Li Lingtian nearly staggered when he heard the Wind Spirit Prince's words. What kind of person was this? Was it not an insult to his reputation to snatch his woman? Yun Yaoyao also looked at Li Lingtian. This junior brother of hers was snatching another man's woman. Countless warriors who had rushed over were stunned. The prince of the Wind Moon Palace before them had actually snatched Li Lingtian's woman from him. What kind of ability and courage did he have? Dragons did not make enemies with ants. Those who snatched women from experts were definitely not simple. When they thought about the changes in Maple Leaf Villa recently, they had a hunch that Li Lingtian must have concealed his cultivation base. You motherf ***, you've already stopped and you still hit me. In the sky, Yun Changfeng, who was with Lan Tianxiang, started cursing loudly. He was a 9th-level martial emperor, but he had failed to gain any advantage by joining hands with Lan Tianxiang to deal with the silver-winged flying dragon. After their little master shouted to stop, the two of them stopped. However, the silver-winged flying dragon took advantage of the moment when the two martial emperors stopped and attacked fiercely, directly slapping the two unguarded 9th-level martial emperors to the ground. Immediately, the warriors of Maple Leaf Manor and the experts watching the battle from afar were all unable to hold back their laughter. They wanted to laugh but did not dare to. Ha ha, ha ha. Li Lingtian laughed as well. Naturally, he was not as afraid as the disciples of Maple Leaf Manor. He could laugh without restraint. However, when he thought about how the Wind Spirit Prince said that he was fighting with him for a woman and even brought experts to cause trouble, wasn't this a joke? Wait a minute, you said that this young master is snatching your woman. Is there something wrong with your brain? I've been staying in Maple Leaf Manor all this time and one don't know you. I've never come into contact with any women. Don't insult my reputation. Li Lingtian quickly told the Wind Spirit Prince to stop talking. He had to straighten things out or he would not do something like being blamed. You still said that you didn't snatch my woman. She already said that you were at Maple Leaf Manor. It was also during this period of time. Are you trying to go back on your words? Prince Wind Spirit felt something was amiss when he saw Li Lingtian's expression. Although the young man before her was handsome, he did not have any cultivation. Naturally, she would not be interested in him. However, he could not pinpoint what was wrong. He could only place all the blame on Li Lingtian. Come down and talk. I don't like to talk with my head up like this. Li Lingtian replied indifferently. He was in a good mood as his cultivation base had recovered and even improved. Now that he had encountered such a clown, he naturally wanted to play with him. This person was somewhat similar to Shweta, but this Wind Spirit Prince was not as big as Shweta. Just as he finished speaking, a string of bell-like laughter rang out in the air. The voice was filled with endless seduction. Li Lingtian was stunned. He did not need to think to know that it was the girl from last time. Why was she still haunting him? Yun Yaoyao and the others also recognized the owner of the voice, and they were confused. When the Wind Spirit Prince heard the voice, he broke into a smile. He even forgot what Li Lingtian had said as he turned around and looked into the distance. A flying ship sped over and arrived in front of Maple Leaf Manor in the blink of an eye. A beautiful girl stood on it. If it wasn't Shun Mei, who else could it be? Her charming charm and beautiful face made people infatuated. Wind Spirit wasn't one, right? He was the one who stole me. Shun Mei stood on the spaceship and spoke in a sweet voice. She pointed her jade-like finger at Li Lingtian and everyone's attention was immediately drawn to him. Long live Princess Mei. Lan Tianxiang and the others hurriedly bowed to Shun Mei with utmost respect. This action stunned all the warriors. Li Lingtian could not help but smile bitterly. It turned out that this Shun Mei had quite the background. These were all superpowers players, yet he had actually become their chess piece. Mei, why would you like a pretty boy with no cultivation? Prince Wind Spirit looked at Shun Mei with infatuation and asked in confusion. At first Shun Mei said that she already had someone she liked. He didn't believe it, but soon he believed it again because there were countless geniuses in this world. Mei must have been deceived by someone. Hence, she came to beat up the person who had deceived Mei. However, she never expected that the Li Lingtian Mei mentioned was an ordinary youth without any cultivation. Li Lingtian, what else do you have to say? What kind of flowery words did you use to deceive Mei? If you have the guts, fight me. The Wind Spirit Prince felt upset when he saw that Shun Mei was ignoring him. He shifted his gaze to Li Lingtian and made up his mind to give this pretty boy a good beating. Despicable, shameless. Li Lingtian looked at Shun Mei coldly as he spoke. He had actually turned himself into a shield. It was too despicable. Someone who could catch the eye of the Wind Moon Palace must have a powerful background. He hated it when big forces played such tricks in front of him. You. Shun Mei was so angry at Li Lingtian's words that her eyes turned red as two streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. Chapter 229 Chapter 229 Acquaintance 1. Chapter 229 Acquaintance 1. Although she was born with the body of charm, she was still a pure and innocent girl. She was usually just having fun, but she had never come into contact with men. He just liked to see countless proud sons of heaven chasing after him. This way he would have a little vanity. However, he had never taken anyone seriously. The last time he was ambushed by Li Lingtian, he only wanted Prince Wind Spirit to teach Li Lingtian a lesson and make him give up. Now, she was actually scolded by Li Lingtian in front of so many people. How could she not feel sad when he scolded her for being shameless? Good, you dare to scold Mei? I will teach you a good lesson today. Get lost, no one is allowed to make a move. The Wind Spirit Prince was furious. He did not harbor any ill will toward Li Lingtian, but now that his favorite person was being scolded like this, he could not tolerate it. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed toward Li Lingtian in a flash. However, he did not activate his cultivation method. Instead, he relied solely on the strength of a martial emperor to bombard Li Lingtian. He had no intention of killing Li Lingtian. Even so, a martial emperor's power tore through the space. In the blink of an eye, it had penetrated the array light shield and arrived above Li Lingtian. Junior brother. Wind Spirit, stop. Seeing that Li Lingtian was about to be pummeled, Yun Yaoyao cried out in shock. At the same time, Shun Mei was also feeling regretful. She was in the wrong first, and if she killed this young man because of her, she would feel bad. However, it was too late to stop Wind Spirit. The Wind Spirit Prince's shocking fist landed on Li Lingtian's body. Bang! With a muffled sound, a sharp wind spread in all directions. Countless warriors of Maple Leaf Manor were sent flying by the strong wind. However, what happened next stunned everyone, including the Wind Spirit Prince himself. Li Lingtian did not put up any resistance as the fist landed on his chest. However, what he did not expect was that his fist seemed to have hit an iron plate. A strong rebound force knocked his strength back and his body was also bounced back. Shoo! All the warriors were shocked. An ordinary young man had taken a punch from a 5th-level martial emperor, and was not sent flying as they had expected. On the contrary, a 5th-level martial emperor was sent flying. This was something that he had never imagined. One haven't fought for a long time. Then I'll play with you. But don't say that I'm snatching your woman. Even if you give her to me, I won't accept it. Li Lingtian flexed his neck with the same smile on his face. He walked forward and walked out of the array formation's light shield without any hindrance. So you're pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? One didn't expect you to be so powerful. I've been hiding my cultivation in the past. Fortunately, I didn't go to court death in the past. Countless warriors were discussing animatedly. Shun Mayer also revealed a curious expression. She didn't expect this pretty boy who seemed to have no cultivation base to be so terrifying. The warriors of Maple Leaf Manor were completely stunned. They could not believe what they had just seen. So you're not a pretty boy. Alright, then let's have a good fight. Prince Wind Spirit channeled his energy to calm the rebounding meridians. He then channeled all the true essence in his body and glared at Li Lingtian. He was a martial arts fanatic and had reached the 5th level of the martial emperor realm at the age of 30. He was one of the top 10 super geniuses of the Wind Moon Palace. Alright. Li Lingtian beckoned with one hand to summon the silver-wing flying dragon and the jade-eyed beast into the array formation. With a flash, he dashed toward the Wind Spirit Prince. Oh, he didn't use any weapons either. He just attacked the Wind Spirit Prince with his strength. Good timing. Prince Wind Spirit took advantage of Li Lingtian's lack of use of his weapon. His cultivation was also based on his own abilities. Rumble. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, the two of them collided. Two shocking explosions appeared, and the two sounds separated. There were traces of blood at the corners of their mouths, but both of them were smiling. It was impossible to tell who was the winner. Dragon Guiding Art. Flying Dragon's Strength. Rumble. The two of them had just separated when they quickly fought each other. Neither of them used any weapons, and they relied solely on their skills and fists to attack each other. A Tier 5 martial emperor powerhouse had astonishing strength. Coupled with his mystical and powerful skills, even Li Lingtian was overwhelmed. If not for the domineering true dragon body protection, he would have been blasted to death long ago. The true dragon body protection had reached the 2nd layer of the flying dragon power, and his physique was extremely strong, which shocked Prince Wind Spirit. To everyone's surprise, Li Lingtian did not display any cultivation from the beginning to the end. It was impossible to tell what cultivation realm he was in. The heavens and earth will shatter. Proud God technique. Heaven and earth burning. Bloodthirsty explosion. Dominating heaven fist. 9 nether finger. In the air, 2 figures were flying around. They were so fast that only 2 shadows could be seen flashing. Loud explosions shook all the warriors. Lan Tianxiang and the others were shocked. The Wind Spirit Prince was only a Tier 5 martial emperor, but he was a super genius of the Wind Moon Palace. His treasures and skills were earth-shattering. He did not expect Li Lingtian to not be at a disadvantage. Even with his eyesight, he could only see the two of them constantly attacking and flashing. The earth collapsed and space was torn apart. The warriors of Maple Leaf Manor were all extremely worried, and Yun Yaoyao was staring at the sky without blinking. Brother Li, be careful. This is a destructive power that I have just cultivated. Heaven and earth annihilation, the power of destruction. Prince Wind Spirit shouted in the air. His body was suspended in the air as he gazed at Li Lingtian from a distance of 5 kilometers away. His expression was grave. Alright, I also have a move called Ice Fire 9 Heavens. One have both ice and fire attributes, and this Ice Fire 9 Heavens is also capable of destroying the world. Li Lingtian cracked a smile. He admired the Wind Spirit Prince for his honesty. The two of them fought non-stop in the air, and they began to appreciate each other. In the end, the two of them used all the skills in their bodies countless times, but they did not dare to defeat their opponents. They could only use their trump cards. Rustle, rustle. CCCC. A destructive pillar of light quickly condensed in the air, and the spiritual energy above the 9 heavens continuously fused into this pillar of light. The heaven and earth annihilation of a martial monarch powerhouse was indeed terrifying. Prince Wind Spirit's expression was grave, and there was a hint of pain on his face. It was obvious that he hadn't completely controlled the destruction of the world. Within 100 miles, countless living beings were dying. Warriors below the martial king realm were directly suppressed and fainted. Even martial arts grandmasters were suffocated by the pressure. Li Lingtian's face was filled with an unprecedented seriousness. Such an attack was already a threat to him. With a flick of his divine sense, the ice and fire ring appeared in front of him. Dragon energy continuously circulated in his meridians. He raised his hands, causing the air to tremble. He did not attack, but the air was filled with unease. When experts attacked, their every move carried destruction. When he raised his hands, a ball of flames burned continuously. The temperature of the air suddenly rose, and the air seemed to be burning. However, in the other hand, there was a glacier. The appearance of the glacier caused the temperature of the space to drop strangely, and the space seemed to be frozen. Two extreme attributes appeared on a person's body. The two extreme attributes repelled each other. All the experts were stunned. Ice and fire dual martial souls, even in the Azure continent, had never appeared before. Such a heaven-defying monster had actually appeared in the Maple Leaf Manor. Ice Fire 9 Heavens, Destruction. As he clasped his hands together, Li Lingtian easily fused the two ultimate attributes together. A three-colored beam of light shot toward the heaven and earth annihilation beam. Space came to a standstill as Li Lingtian and Prince Wind Spirit looked at each other with smiles on their faces. Rumble! There was a shocking explosion, and a destructive halo shot out in all directions. Wherever the halo passed, there was destruction. The death and destruction aura in the air corroded everything in the world. Ooft. The sound of blood spurting could be heard. Countless experts trembled in front of this halo and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at the destruction wherever the halo passed in horror. At that moment, Li Lingtian and Prince Wind Spirit spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their faces were pale, but the smile on their faces remained. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha. The two of them laughed at the same time. Their laughter was arrogant and without any color. It was a happy laughter that came from the bottom of their hearts. The two of them rushed towards each other in a flash. Everyone's expression changed again. They had been implicated by the two of them just now. If the two of them continued to fight, they would really become the fish that had been implicated. However, to everyone's surprise, the two fists collided without any strength. The two of them looked at each other again. This was the mutual appreciation between experts. From now on, Li Lingtian will be my brother, Prince Wind Spirit. Whoever goes against my brother is going against me, Wind Spirit. Prince Wind Spirit said loudly, which stunned all the warriors. They were fighting so fiercely just now, but now they were calling each other brothers. Moreover, the Wind Spirit Prince and Li Lingtian did not seem to be faking it, as they were both peerless geniuses. There was no need for them to put on an act. Alright, one won't sit idly by if anything happens to Prince Wind Spirit. Li Lingtian was taken aback. He did not expect the Wind Spirit Prince to be so straightforward. He then said loudly, "It's not a waste of my life to have a friend who's like a brother." At once, the Maple Leaf Villa warriors were relieved. The soliciting Moon Mountain warriors who were watching the battle were shocked. Now that Li Lingtian had displayed his shocking strength and had even become brothers with Prince Wind Spirit, who would dare to provoke him? Mayor, if you had chosen someone else, I definitely wouldn't have agreed to it. But for him, I can rest assured that you'll be my younger sister in the future. If anyone bullies you, just let me know. I'll make sure that he regrets being born into this world. Prince Wind Spirit pondered for a while and made a decision. He then said loudly to Shun Mei who was on the flying ship. Chapter 230 Chapter 230 Playing with Fire 1 Chapter 230 Playing with Fire 1 Brotherly, this is my token. If you need anything, just call me. The disciples of the Wind Moon Palace will treat this token as if it's me. But you better not bully Mayor. Otherwise I will never let you off. The destruction of heaven and earth is not my strongest move. Moonrise Mountains are in turmoil. You should be careful. With you here, the people of Wind Moon Palace won't get involved. With that said, he waved his hand and a jade token was presented to Li Lingtian. He then flashed and beckoned to Lan Tianxiang and the others before he swiftly flew into the sky. In the blink of an eye, 6 figures vanished into the horizon. They came and left quickly, leaving Li Lingtian no chance to speak. All the warriors were also stunned. This Wind Spirit Prince was simply a martial arts fanatic. He had a one-track mind, but he was willing to risk his life for his own brother. Li Lingtian was speechless. He did not know this Shun Mayor at all. He had only met her once before and now, he was being described in such a manner by this Wind Spirit Prince. Judging from Prince Wind Spirit's expression, he must have connected him with Shun Mayor. He was truly wronged. Now the entire Moonrise Mountains knew about it. Humph, do you know that if you dare to bully me, he will find trouble with you? Shun Mayor's face also turned red. She had never seen such a scene before, and she had never thought that things would turn out this way. He glared at Li Lingtian in a show of force before shifting his gaze to Yun Yaoyao with a victorious smile on his face. Hey! Li Lingtian could not help but shake his head when he saw Shun Mayor's expression. This matter was only getting worse the more he explained it. He could only wave his hand and put away the few demon beasts. Then he turned around and cancelled the array. After being attacked by a few martial emperors, this formation was not complete. He could just build another one in the future. After entering the array, they looked into the distance. All the martial artists felt a wave of fear and quickly flew away. Boom! The earth-shattering explosion shocked all the martial artists of Maple Leaf Manor. Li Lingtian did not even look at her as he walked inside. It turned out that Shun Mayor's flying ship had landed at the Maple Leaf Manor. After putting away the flying ship, she quickly caught up. Hey, are you not going to care about me anymore? Shun Mayor came before Li Lingtian with a fierce expression. She glared at Li Lingtian before revealing a seductive smile that was enough to enrapture the world. Do I know you? Don't be so unreasonable, understand? Li Lingtian walked past them and headed back to his own courtyard. The other Maple Leaf Villa warriors had also returned to their own residences. No one dared to provoke Li Lingtian and Shun Mayor. One of them was the Prince of the Wind Moon Palace while the other was the Princess of the Queen's Palace. On the other hand, Li Lingtian was a super powerhouse, a spirit alchemist, and the brother of the Wind Spirit Prince. With such an identity, how many people in the Azure continent would dare to provoke him? In the sky, 6 figures were flying at high speed. In an instant they were thousands of miles away. You guys go back by yourselves. I'm going back to the Wind Moon Palace to cultivate in seclusion. This kid is too abnormal. If not for my thick skin, my bones would definitely have fallen apart. Prince Wind Spirit looked at the 5 martial emperors flying behind him, turned around, and said coldly with a cold and arrogant look in his eyes. Prince, isn't it a little abrupt for you to become brothers with Li Lingtian? Or does Prince have other thoughts? Lan Tianxiang was puzzled. He could not accept the fact that Prince had become brothers with someone who had started a fight the moment they met. In theory, Li Lingtian was also a rival for his woman. Even though Li Lingtian had been used by Shun Mayor, it was still a little demeaning for them to become brothers. There are some things that you can't understand. Although I've only met him once and we're both opponents, I can feel his character. Although one can't tell his cultivation base, I'm sure he hasn't reached the martial emperor realm. To be able to be on par with me in the martial arts grandmaster realm, he is definitely a heaven-defying person. Some people are born to be brothers, while others are born to be opponents. There are also brothers who are more terrifying than enemies. There are also people who look like opponents but can be trusted. Wind Moon Palace, don't get involved in the matters of the soliciting Moon Mountain Range. If necessary, help him. Mayor's heart is not on me. I'm also focused on martial arts. Martial arts is vast and boundless. To have an opponent and a brother, it's not a waste of my time in this world. Prince Wind Spirit looked at the sky. He was a stark contrast to his previous single-minded self. He could only talk to himself about his subordinates' confusion. Whether he could understand it or not was not his business. He had lost a woman today, but he had gained a brother. If he couldn't get it, there was no point in forcing it. His master had only allowed him to marry Shun Mei for the sake of the alliance between the Wind Moon Palace and the Queen Palace. After saying that, he smiled and waved his hand. The space trembled slightly and a jade slip appeared in front of him. The jade slip gave off a silver light. When the silver light disappeared, the Wind Spirit Prince also disappeared, leaving the 5 martial emperors in the air. Damn it, that demonic beast, it seems like revenge is impossible. It even hit me when it stopped. Lan Tianxiang watched his little master leave and rubbed his shoulders resentfully. Thinking of that detestable demonic beast made him angry. He had clearly shouted for him to stop, but he still wanted to give him a blow. He was beaten until he saw stars. The space around them trembled. The 5 of them glanced at the soliciting Moon Mountain range and left reluctantly. The entire soliciting Moon Mountain range was in an uproar. Countless warriors were talking about how Maple Leaf Villa's Li Lingtian had snatched a woman and snatched her away from Wind Moon Palace's Wind Spirit Prince. It turned out that the peerless beauty Shun Mei was actually the princess of the Queen's palace. This made all the geniuses who had pursued Shun Mei shiver. Li Lingtian fought with Prince Fengling and became brothers in the end. Li Lingtian's cultivation was so profound that no one could tell what his cultivation level was. Moreover, he had a 5th-tier 8th-grade demonic beast, as well as a 5th-tier and 4th-tier demonic beast. Their strength was extremely terrifying. Some families and experts who harbored evil intentions in the soliciting Moon Mountains no longer had any thoughts of doing so. Li Lingtian's identity was different now. Even if they could defeat Li Lingtian, who would dare to endure the wrath of the Wind Spirit Prince? If the Wind Spirit Prince's brother were to defeat Li Lingtian, it would be a slap to the Wind Spirit Prince's face. Slapping the Wind Spirit Prince's face was equivalent to offending the Wind Moon Palace. Offending the Wind Moon Palace in the Azure Continent was equivalent to courting death. The Queen's Palace's princess seemed to be on Li Lingtian's side as well. With 2 of the 3 major factions involved, only a fool would dare to offend Li Lingtian. However, the owner of all the forces and martial artist opinions was now smiling bitterly. Are you done? You ruined my reputation and integrity, and now you're still staying. Are you going to let me live? Li Lingtian sat in the room and looked at the peerless beauty across from him. Such a beauty was supposed to make all the men in the world go crazy, but Li Lingtian felt helpless now. I ruined your reputation. Who told you to provoke me? Wind Spirit said that if you dare to bully me, he will find trouble with you. Shun Mei sat on the bed arrogantly, a proud look on her face. Her every move was filled with a seductive charm. Now he completely ignored Li Lingtian's bitter smile. He thought to himself, who asked you to provoke me? This is what happens. However, she felt a little depressed and unconvinced. She was peerlessly beautiful and was the goddess in the hearts of countless men. The people who pursued her could circle around the Azure Continent. As long as he nodded his head, countless geniuses would become his foundation. But in front of this young man she was actually so pathetic. Could it be because of Yun Yao Yao? Little girl, if you anger this young master, he... Li Lingtian gave a wicked smile that would disgust any girl. When Shun Mei saw Li Lingtian's expression, she felt a wave of fear. Even though she liked to cause trouble, she was a pure and innocent girl. If Li Lingtian really did something to him, he would be in trouble. However, when she recalled Li Lingtian's initial behavior, she was relieved. Li Lingtian was just scaring her on purpose so that she would leave. So what if I anger you? Are you going to eat me up? An innocent smile appeared on Shun Mei's face as she giggled. The combination of charm and purity, this was an extremely perfect stunner. This young master will eat you. A sinister smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face as the blood vessels in his body flared. A faint fragrance wafted into his nose and his consciousness drifted away. The fragrance came from Shun Mei's body, but Li Lingtian did not notice it at all. In a flash, he arrived before Shun Mei. The smile on her face gradually became a little strange. Shun Mei was also startled. However, Li Lingtian stopped in front of her at that moment. The two of them were less than a foot apart. Are you a demonic beast that eats humans? Shun Mei's lively eyes looked at Li Lingtian as her heart bloomed with joy. This fellow was just trying to scare her. This princess is not scared. Little girl, you're finished. Li Lingtian immediately pulled Shun Mei up and gently pulled her into his arms. The fragrance became even stronger, almost reaching his soul. Li Lingtian's blood boiled as he held her soft and tender body tightly in his arms. He did not know why he was so frivolous. Before Shun Mei could react, Li Lingtian had pinned her down on the bed. Shun Mei couldn't move at all. Looking at the handsome face in front of her, her whole body went limp. This was the first time she had come into contact with a man, and she was being pressed down like this. Her whole body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. Chapter 231 Chapter 231 Shun Mei leaves. Chapter 231 Shun Mei leaves. The two of them looked at each other. This scene was extremely ambiguous. Li Lingtian's eyes were burning with passion. He was a normal man, so how could he resist the endless temptation of this seductive beauty? Moreover, the alluring fragrance kept tempting him, making him lose his mind. Shun Mei's entire body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. This was the first time she had been together with a man. She had never thought that she would go overboard with her fire. A trace of desire gradually appeared in his eyes. There was also fear in this desire. She slowly closed her eyes and wrapped her jade-like hands around Li Lingtian's neck. With a gentle tug, she pressed her seductive red lips against Li Lingtian's neck. Instantly, the two of them trembled. This feeling made them depressed and unable to extricate themselves. Gradually, Li Lingtian lost his mind completely. At this point, he could no longer control himself. With a wave of his hand, an array was cast, covering the room and closing the door. Instantly, the room was filled with the color of spring, and the sound of ecstasy could be heard. After an unknown period of time, the room finally fell silent. When Li Lingtian woke up the next day, he felt that something was amiss. Something was pressing down on his chest. It was warm, soft, and smooth like jade. He looked over and his heart trembled. A delicate and perfect body was half leaning on him, and her delicate face was buried in his chest. Yes. Li Lingtian's movement woke up the people around him. However, what left Li Lingtian speechless was that Shun Mei's head moved on his chest as if she was trying to sleep more comfortably. However, she soon sensed that something was amiss. She carefully opened her eyes and saw Li Lingtian staring at her. Her heart trembled as she thought of what happened yesterday. She had actually slept with this man. If she had sex with this man, her pure body would be given to this man. Now that she was completely naked, she was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Li Lingtian's heart was in a mess. He did not know what had happened to him yesterday, but he had lost his mind. The two of them didn't say anything. Shun Mei hurriedly put on her clothes. Her face was flushed red, and when she moved, a pained expression appeared on her face. She thought about how crazy the two of them were yesterday. I'm sorry. After Li Lingtian had tidied his clothes, a hint of guilt appeared on his face. He did not know what to do after doing such a thing to a girl. It's none of your business. My constitution is different from others. You can't be blamed. I'm also responsible. Shun Mei looked at Li Lingtian's expression. The elegant man had actually become so restrained. She knew how guilty Li Lingtian was. She didn't understand why she didn't feel any regret, nor did she hate the man who took her virginity. You are my man in the future. If you dare to bully me, one will not let you off. After saying that, Shun Mei flashed and left the courtyard. With a loud boom, the huge spaceship quickly flew up from Maple Leaf Manor and disappeared into the horizon. When Li Lingtian heard the commotion outside, he felt an inexplicable sense of loss. He knew that Shun Mei had left, but he did not chase after her. She had been confused and did not know why she had done such a thing. He tidied up the room. The red on the bed made his heart feel heavy. This Shun Mei looked extremely charming, but she was a pure girl. The more she was like this, the heavier his heart became. If this Shun Mei was just a bad girl, he wouldn't care so much. Moreover, Shun Mei's departure had made him feel a little disappointed. She didn't want him to feel guilty and responsible. Oh. The last sentence was also deliberately pretending to be domineering. A day passed in a daze. Li Lingtian could not calm down even after meditating and cultivating. In the end, he could only channel his ice soul martial soul, and gradually enter the state of emptiness. Yun Yaoyao had been here once, but she did not disturb Li Lingtian when she saw him cultivating. However, when he realized that Shun Mei was missing, he felt strange. However, he was happy that she wasn't here. Oh. After the first battle, Li Lingtian finally experienced the true power of a martial royal realm powerhouse. Although it seemed that he was not at a disadvantage in the battle with the Wind Spirit Prince of the Martial Emperor, he only relied on the true dragon body protection and the powerful and magical dragon energy. If he were to really fight Prince Wind Spirit, he would have to use the Heaven and Earth Sword Roar and the Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber to win. However, after reaching the third rank of the martial arts Grandmaster realm, coupled with the extreme Earth rank skills, ordinary martial emperors were not his match. All in all, as long as it was not an expert above the 5th level of the martial emperor realm, he could defeat them alone. Even if he could not defeat them, he could still use the thunderclap wings to escape. After getting used to it in the room for a while, he got used to his martial arts Grandmaster realm again. Outside the soliciting Moon Mountains, countless warriors no longer had any ill intentions. They dared not provoke Li Lingtian. Not to mention provoking Li Lingtian, even an ordinary powerhouse would not touch a disciple of Maple Leaf Villa. This was to prevent Li Lingtian from covering up for his own shortcomings and causing unnecessary trouble. During this period of time, Li Lingtian had also refined the Qingyang pill. The recovery of cultivation was also a matter of time. As long as there was enough time, he could quickly increase his cultivation. It seemed quiet outside, but Li Lingtian noticed that many powerhouses had arrived at the soliciting Moon Mountains. These powerhouses were all at the level of martial emperors. Moreover, they were the very powerful martial emperors. Li Lingtian found it strange. This was because the Wind Spirit Prince had said before he left that the Wind Moon Palace in the soliciting Moon Mountains would not be involved and that he should be careful. It seemed that Prince Wind Spirit had known about what was going on in the soliciting Moon Mountains. Moreover, this secret was public, but he did not know about it. He asked Yun Xiaoling, but Yun Xiaoling knew nothing. Li Lingtian did not bother about that. Those who came were all martial royal realm powerhouses. It seemed that only the super powerhouses knew about these things. Yun Xiaoling was only a martial king. How could he have come into contact with such matters? However, on this day, Nanming Alchemist came to visit. Sir Nanming, please forgive me for not welcoming you. Li Lingtian said with a smile as the two of them greeted each other. Sir Lingtian, you're too polite. One didn't take the liberty to come here and disturb you, right? Alchemist Nanming cupped his fists and said with a faint smile. The two of them were polite for a while before entering the courtyard. In the courtyard, the two of them sat down casually. When spirit alchemists were together, it was inevitable for them to share their insights on alchemy. Li Lingtian was no exception, as both of them shared their insights. After a full half an hour, both of their faces were filled with satisfaction. Everyone's experience in pill refinement was different, but such an exchange of experience could also complement each other's strengths. After the exchange, the alchemist Nanming pondered for a moment before a serious expression appeared on his face. He then proposed a deal to Li Lingtian. Sir Lingtian, are you able to accomplish the matter regarding the soliciting Moon Mountains? Alchemist Nanming said with a probing tone. I've been in seclusion all day, and I've been isolated from the outside world. I hope Sir Nanming can give me some pointers. Li Lingtian's face was filled with curiosity as he smiled. Although he was not as old as these old foxes, he had a lot of experience. Moreover, in terms of intelligence, few could compare to him. In the soliciting Moon Mountains 300 years ago, a martial royal realm expert discovered an ancient cave abode. However, the cave abode was heavily guarded by traps and countless formations. No one could enter it safely. It is said that this ancient cave mansion was opened by an almighty expert tens of thousands of years ago. It opens once every 100 years. However, no one who enters can come out safely. This time another 100 years have passed. Countless experts have gathered here for this ancient cave mansion. The alchemist Nanming was curious when he saw that Li Lingtian was unaware of the ancient cave abode. He then recalled that the young man was only 17 or 18 years old. Naturally, he was unaware of these things. Moreover, this was just right. He could pull in a companion. At that time, his chances would be greater. Ancient cave mansion. There's such a thing. No wonder I saw so many experts rushing over during this period of time. It turns out that they are here for the ancient cave mansion. Li Lingtian revealed an icy expression. Since it was an ancient cave dwelling, there should be treasures inside. The experts of the ancient cave mansion were naturally not comparable to the experts of the divine martial continent. However, he did not understand why Nanming would tell him. Could it be that he wanted to join forces with him? That's right. There are at least 800 to 1,000 martial royal realm experts who have entered. All the experts in Moonrise City have the chance to enter. Why don't Sir Lingtian join hands with me? We'll split the treasures we obtain equally. The alchemist Nanming went straight to the point, leaving Li Lingtian stunned. Join hands? Just the two of us definitely can't do it. Sir Nanming should have found someone else. Li Lingtian said with a smile. With so many powerhouses entering, the chances of obtaining the treasure were slim. Of course, I've already found 3 people. When the time comes, if we join forces, we'll have more chances to fight. Moreover, I know a little about the seats inside. Coupled with Sir Lingtian's array Dao, it won't be difficult to obtain the treasure. Nanming laughed as well. Li Lingtian's alchemy Dao was formidable and his strength was profound. Furthermore, he was more knowledgeable in array Dao. During the recent battle, it was believed that no one else other than Li Lingtian would be able to cast this defensive array in Maple Leaf Villa. There were traps and formations everywhere in the ancient cave dwelling. If there was someone who knew formations, the chances would be much higher. 1C. I wonder if one know the 3 of them and how strong they are. Also, there must be a certain limit to entering the ancient cavern abode. Otherwise, there would be countless experts in the Soliciting Moon Mountain Range and the Soliciting Moon City. In that case, the ancient cavern abode would not be overcrowded. Li Lingtian pondered for a moment. He knew that there were many simple entrances to this cave abode. Otherwise, Nanming would not have sought him out. In the Azure Continent, he had a quota to go to Hidden Dragon Island and Heavenly Devil Canyon. In the Azure Continent, the rules should be similar. Chapter 232 Chapter 232 Farewell to Yunyaoya. Chapter 232 Farewell to Yunyaoya. Sir Lingtian is right. There are indeed many restrictions in there. Each sect only has 2 slots to enter. Only martial emperors can enter. Martial emperors who enter have to pay Lu million lower spiritual stones to buy a teleportation pearl. Only martial emperors with teleportation beads can enter and resist the most basic decaying qi inside. Alchemist Nanming smiled. 100 million spirit stones for each Atartial emperor was indeed not something an ordinary expert could afford. Moreover, each sect only had 2 slots. Even if a super sect had spirit stones, only 2 people could enter. However, there were also some sects and families who faked it and took the spots from some small factions. Because some middle-class families and sects simply couldn't take out 200 million spirit stones, and going in would be suicide, this quota naturally went to the super sections. Oh, 1C. It seems that Sir Nanming is not a clan or a sect. Li Lingtian was shocked as well. If that was the case, some of the super sects would have a chance to take advantage of it. A normal sect could send 2 people in, but a super sect could send a dozen people in. If that was the case, some lone martial emperors would be killed. Nanming had come to find him to join forces, probably because he was worried that such a thing would happen. A few years ago, when one was refining pills for a few sects, one obtained a teleportation pearl. If Sir Lingtian goes, I can give you one at the original price. Alchemist Nanming took out a teleportation bead. The teleportation bead was the size of a fist. and it emitted a wood elemental aura. Even though it was a pearl made of wood, there were countless arrays within it. Li Lingtian could easily tell that the pearl was unusual with just one look. It should be about time for the opening of the ancient cave dwelling. Li Lingtian did not say whether he wanted the teleportation pearl or not. Instead, he was concerned about the time it would be activated. Although the price of the teleportation pearl was a little expensive, there must be some good treasures in it since it could attract the experts of Moonrise Mountain Range and Moonrise City to compete for it. It would not be a loss if he could get some. It will open in 3 days. 3 days later. That's right. Countless sects and forces have gathered here, waiting for the opening of the ancient cave dwelling. Since Sir Nanming thinks so highly of me, then I will risk my life to accompany you. Alright, that's it. You only need 10 million for this teleportation bead. Li Lingtian did not say anything further. The Nanming alchemist was extremely famous in the soliciting Moon Mountains, and he believed that he would not provoke him for a mere 10 million spiritual stones. Even if there was a conspiracy, it would be in the ancient cave abode. According to him, there were countless experts in Moonrise City and the Moonrise Mountains, so he did not dare to act rashly. After putting away the teleportation pearl, alchemist Nanming bade farewell and left. He would meet them in the Demon King cave in the depths of the soliciting Moon Mountains in 3 days. All the experts were gathered at that place. The Demon King cave was also the critical point of the ancient cave dwelling. Li Lingtian watched Nanming leave with a faint smile on his face. He was still too inexperienced to be treated as cannon fodder. Although Nanming was a third-level martial emperor, he was not on the same level as the experts of other families and sections. In a place like that, who cared what kind of spirit alchemist or divine array master you were? Treasures were the most important. No one would easily offend an alchemist outside, but in such a dangerous place, alchemists were still targets to be killed. Moreover, that place was a place where they could kill their opponents. If they did not resolve their hatred and grudges in that place, it would be difficult outside. Nanming saw that his strength was not bad, coupled with his identity as a demon beast. Otherwise, he would not have found him. Li Lingtian gave a brief explanation, and said that he would be leaving for a period of time in 2 days. He didn't need to worry about Maple Leaf Manor. As long as he wasn't a fool, he wouldn't easily provoke Maple Leaf Manor. Yun Yaoyao was the one who was most worried about him. Ever since Shun Mayer came, Yun Yaoyao had always felt sour about their relationship. He didn't know what his junior brother and Shun Mayer did that night. Moreover, he didn't know if Shun Mayer would return after she left. On the surface, Shun Mayer looked extremely charming, but she was a pure girl. Moreover, it was the kind that was extremely pure. It was just that under the influence of her body of charm, purity and charm were fused together. Such a girl was peerless and beautiful. It would be strange if his junior brother didn't like her. Although he and Shun Mayer had their own merits, Shun Mayer's identity made all the men in the world go crazy over her. The princess of the Queen's Palace, the future master of the Queen's Palace. With the identity of the Queen's Palace, it was enough to make the powers of the Azure Continent wary. He thought about how he had been naked when he came into contact with the 19 Absolute Meridians some time ago. The relationship between the two of them was ambiguous and her heart had changed. If Li Lingtian ignored her, she did not know what to do. Junior brother, be careful when the time comes. Senior sister will wait for your safe return. Yun Yaoyao looked at Li Lingtian. No one could stand in his way. All she could do was silently give him her blessings and support. His cultivation base was too low, so it would only add to Li Lingtian's troubles if he went. The only thing he could do now was to cultivate diligently. When he became stronger one day, he would be able to roam the world with Li Lingtian. The Queen's Palace, the Wind Moon Palace, the House of Storms. If he had the backing of the 3 major forces, he could also help his junior brother. Perhaps he had a power like the Queen's Palace, so he wouldn't lose to Shun Mayer. Li Lingtian and Yun Yaoyao had never expected that a mysterious force would appear in the Azure Continent 2 years later. Although this force was not as powerful as the Wind Moon Palace, it was not something the 10 great families could compare to. Intelligence was everywhere in the world, and all the intelligence was controlled by this mysterious crystal pavilion. Similarly, no one in the divine martial continent had seen the pavilion master's true face. And this force had appeared because of Shun Mei Er's influence. I understand. Senior sister, Maple Leaf Manor is in a difficult situation. After you removed the 9 terminal meridians, your cultivation speed has increased greatly. Take these spirit stones and pills to cultivate. When one come out, 1 foot 11 inches guide you on your cultivation. By then, I'll definitely be a fairy who looks down on the world. Li Lingtian reached out and caressed Yun Yaoyao's jade-like face. This senior sister was so beautiful that she could topple a city. If he was someone who was content with his current situation, he would never leave Maple Leaf Villa. After saying that, he activated his divine consciousness in the divine dragon ring. He had collected countless storage pouches in the divine dragon ring, and he could use them now. A total of 500 million spirit stones, as well as countless pills and weapons, were stored in the storage bag. These pills, spirit stones, and weapons were enough for Yun Yaoyao to use until she reached the Martial Emperor realm. Yes, I'll wait for you. If one reached the Martial Royal realm, 1 foot 11 inches marry you. Yun Yaoyao reached out her little hand, her little face flushed red, looking extremely cute. She reached out her little hand and clenched her pink fist, her jade-like little finger making a pinky gesture. Li Lingtian smiled and extended his right hand as well. The two of them made a pinky promise like children. By the way, senior sister, when I was adventuring in the past, I obtained a kind of fruit, the 1,000-year-old vermilion fruit. It has the effect of preserving one's youth, and can also improve one's physique. Li Lingtian took out a vermilion fruit. In the past, he had not recovered his cultivation base, so it was not appropriate for him to take out some good items. Now that he had recovered, he was not afraid of a 1,000-year-old vermilion fruit. Really? That's great. Thank you, junior brother. Yun Yaoyao was excited when she saw the blood-red fruit that was almost translucent. As long as it was a fruit that could retain one's youth, no girl would not be tempted. All women in the world cared about their looks. Especially beautiful girls, they all wanted to stay young forever. Seeing the fruit, Yun Yaoyao hurriedly snatched it over and hugged it in her arms, as if she was worried that someone would snatch it. Li Lingtian stared at Yun Yaoyao's chest and chuckled. Yun Yaoyao was stunned for a moment before she understood what was going on. Her face was flushed red. The last time he removed the 9 absolute meridians, he was only left with a tube top. However, it was not enough to hide it, and Li Lingtian saw everything. Now that she saw Li Lingtian's smile, she naturally thought of the situation that day. Now that she thought about it, she felt like she was looking for a hole to hide in. Senior sister, take care. Li Lingtian looked at the sky. 3 days was neither too long nor too short, but he knew nothing about the soliciting Moon Mountains, so he had no choice but to enter first. Junior brother. You should call me elder sister Yao. Senior sister will always wait for junior brother to return. Seeing that Li Lingtian was about to leave, Yun Yaoyao's joy from earlier vanished. Even with the vermilion fruit on her, she was not in the mood anymore. If Li Lingtian were to leave, what use would it be for the vermilion fruit to remain forever youthful? Yaoyao sis. Li Lingtian nodded as he called out gently. The thunderclap wings appeared and he disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already 20 miles away. He didn't want to see the tears of a beautiful woman. Love was always the weakness of martial artists. After he reached the 3rd rank of martial arts grandmaster, the thunderclap wings could also reduce the teleportation distance of the thunderclap wings by 20 miles. Tears rolled down Yun Yaoyao's cheeks as she watched Li Lingtian disappear. I must become strong. She turned around and walked into Maple Leaf Manor. The other disciples didn't dare to disturb Yun Yaoyao when they saw her expression. For the next few days, Yun Yaoyao didn't leave her room. Li Lingtian was reluctant to part with her, but there were times when a man's actions could not be avoided. There were still many things that he had to complete. Tang Ziming from Azure Continent and Tang Qingyue from Azure Continent. These were all things that he had to resolve. If he wanted to solve these problems, he had to become stronger. A martial arts grandmaster might be an expert, but he was nothing in front of a martial emperor. In the Azure Continent, There were countless martial emperors and martial supremacies. With his cultivation, he was not even comparable to an ant. What qualifications did he have to accomplish these things? The soliciting Moon Mountain Range was the first starting point for his azure continent. He had to make good use of this starting point. His body flashed rapidly, and he kept his thunderclap wings. A long sword flew out, and he flew toward the depths of the soliciting Moon Mountains. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.